Minutes on to 11 o'clock here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. You're locked on to WEFM 99.9, the Clean Fresh Sound, and this is your Isyotan program. Remember, Isyotan is an interactive program, so the numbers to call are 457-9997 if you're calling from a local landline, 532-9997 if you're calling from a digital cell phone, and you can also send us a message or call us on WhatsApp at 457-9997. The Isyotan program is being hosted by Mr. Cecil Ryan, Mr. Philbert, and Mr. Joel Providence. Good morning to you, Cecil.
Good morning to you, Karen, and good morning to Philbert, and good morning to Joel and our guest who would introduce shortly. And I want to also say good morning to all our listeners on the WEFM platforms, also on the Star Radio, Star FM, and Garfin Radio. Those who are here with us in Vinci or overseas, we welcome you to our usual way, to the issue at hand, the program. And you know, issue at hand is the most listened to, the premier discussion program in St. Vincent and the Grenadines period. Whether it's in a Sunday or weekday, it is the premier discussion program. So we greet you, and we hope that you have the time to be with us for the rest of the program this morning. Pigeon?
Yes, Cecil, good morning and thank you. Good morning, Joel, Kieran. Good morning to our guests, and good morning to all of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I wasn't here last week, and I want to thank those persons who just simply checked in to see why I was here. Thanks to CWSA. It's good to be back, and as usual, we're going to engage you in an interesting discussion. Joel?
Yeah, well, welcome back, FMSA. Pigeon, good to see you. Good morning, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It's good to be back on another edition of Issue at Hand. It's the 1st of June, I think it is. Yeah. Yes, and we're just 11 months from the first anniversary of Beryl. And it's, I guess at some point between now and the 1st of July, we'll have an opportunity to discuss our state of preparedness for the hurricane season. But we have lots of things to talk about, Cecil, and I look forward to participating, and I wish everyone a great Sunday.
All right. I don't know, you have any preliminary matter you want to raise, or Pigeon?
Yes, I have one.
Okay, well, let's get into it. I have a couple, including I want to play the Captain Ibrahim Traore message to Jamaicans. Thank you message. So I want to play it later on. So go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I just have, I know maybe...
Before you do, sorry, I know you just mentioned the beginning of the hurricane season. I don't know if you want to speak to that, or maybe Pigeon later on. Good. You know, in terms of watching our listeners with preparedness. Yeah.
Yeah, well, okay, I know that we will have other opportunities, but I'll just maybe just mention that I had made a pledge to myself after the experience last year, when it was 7 nights in particular that I was without power. And I said to myself last year that never again. Because it wasn't an easy situation dealing with those mosquitoes in the night and not having to go and get ice and do all sorts of things to survive. The days were okay, but certainly survival at night was indeed a challenge. And I said to myself, never again. So I'm I have 1 month to ensure that all things are in place, so that I don't have to experience another burial. And my message goes out to persons as well who, whether you have had similar experiences as I did last year or not, that you do whatever you can to prepare yourself for the hurricane season. I'm told that it is going to be a little bit more intense than average. And so therefore, expect a season that could be, although burial was horrible, we had just one or two major storms last year, but this year it is predicted that it could be worse. So let us prepare ourselves for the season. What I wanted to speak about quickly, Cecil, and it ties in indirectly to the main topic for discussion today. Last week, we spoke, among other things, on the state of the economy with the Honorable Camilo Gonzalez, Minister of Finance. And one of the things that was discussed was the Citizen by Investment Program. What we did not do necessarily was to talk about alternatives. And one alternative that, like we spoke about Malta and other places have embraced, would have been the whole question of residency by investment, not so much citizenship. And I know a number of places have residency by investment programs. I was reading just recently on the push by the island of Mauritius and what they're doing and so on to entice persons to come and spend as much time as possible in Mauritius. Now, there are persons around the world who are now have a different view on life, particularly those who are retired or approaching retirement, as to where they would want to spend a certain portion of their time annually, not necessarily in their ordinary place of residence. And I said to myself, okay, whether or not St. Vincent and the Grenadines embraces a residency by investment program, we still have to say, well, is St. Vincent and the Grenadines the kind of place that persons would want to come and spend 3 months, 6 months, or whatever the case might be? Is St. Vincent and the Grenadines the place where retired Vincentians, citizens who spent most of their productive years abroad and so on, and they may want to come back, build a home, and some have done that and so forth, that whether or not St. Vincent and the Grenadines is the place that they can really enjoy and live out a good portion of their remaining years. And I thought about it and I said, but you know, one of the, apart from having the key amenities and so forth, and that people can relax and feel safe and everything like that, it was the whole question of law and order. And and I said, even putting aside the question of law and law enforcement and so forth, is the question of order and discipline. And I know it will tie in when we come into the discussion. And I think the question of order and our desire and passion about embracing order is very, very important. And I think it's something that requires significant discussion, because it becomes a cultural thing. It must not be something that must be enforced. Last week we talked about the whole question of suasion as an alternative, the best route to go to get the kind of discipline in the society that we want. And so whether how we deal with navigating through the traffic, how do we deal with just doing transactions in stores, in the bank, supermarket, where we go, and so forth. How do we deal with each other? Young persons, old persons, not so old, not so young, and so forth. How do we deal with each other? These things are very crucial. So I would like us to be able to say, let us discuss the question of discipline and order, and let us, and you know, we spoke about the van culture, and I guess we might be able to get a chance to talk about the van culture this morning as well. And that is very indicative of our state of order or disorder in St. Vincent and Grenadines, and we'll get a chance to discuss it. But I just say that we have to then say, how do we keep beating this drum? How do we get the message out? How do we drive it and so on? And I think that we need to put in place systems that can drive this message, where we can actually, through suasion and through encouragement and so on, from young and not so young, to get the message out, so that we can actually create and have develop further, let me add in further, the kind of society that persons who are abroad may say, look, I want to invest in St. Vincent. I want to be able to spend 3 months or 6 months of my year here in St. Vincent Grenadines. It's a beautiful place and so on. The people are fantastic. There's order. I feel safe. There's good food to eat, and that, the weather and everything's fine and so forth. And this is the place that I would like to spend a good bit of my time. And we just have to make sure all the ducks are lined up. Lastly, my last comment on it has to do, usually when we try to frame a development models, what kind of society we want, where we are today and where we want to be, it is useful to have some kind of benchmark to see what kind of model that we're embracing. And I'm not just talking in terms of the economics or whether the social, we are embracing for social democracy or democratic socialism or a pure laissez-faire capitalist society. I'm not necessarily going down that route, but just generally in the question of the kind of the combination of the quality of life. When earlier on, or late last year, we spoke with like Dr. Justin Robinson and so on about the Human Development Index and where we were and so forth. And I think the Prime Minister might have been on, and he might have expressed surprise that St. Kitts was placed higher than Barbados and so forth. But I close by saying that as we think about who we are, what we want to be, and what we have achieved as a people, which is different to our neighboring islands, we still have to say, well, could we compare or take Barbados as a model, as a someplace that we can use as a comparator, and to see where we are, where we could be. Could we take the Mauritius? Could we go to Costa Rica? Could we, wherever it is? Could we even try Singapore? Whatever it is, but we need to, in our own minds, technology is there. Just go on your phone, Google, see what life is like on the island of Mauritius, what life is like in Barbados and so forth, where these issues are concerned, which I just mentioned a short while ago, and then say, this St. Vincent is in the ballpark, but these are the things that we need to put in place and so forth. And a key component to creating that kind of society that we believe that we should embrace has to do with order.
Well, Joel, you have set the context in that last statement for the broader discussion that we're going to get into, but you also mentioned you raised the question of our level of preparedness for burial. So, not for burial, for this year, having experienced burial last year. I just want to say, in talking about our experience in burial, I want to just mention so far the government's response. I'm fully aware, I've been informed reliably that from January, February to now, the government has spent, up until last week anyway, the government has spent over $20 million in addressing the issues arising out of burial experience. And that by the end of this month, June, that figure might be up to about $25 million. And we really have to give kudos, take our hats off for that kind of effort by the government in response. But clearly, as you said, that's burial's experience, and we have to find a way to prepare ourselves even stronger for this year hurricane season, which starts today, as a matter of fact, June 1. The whole thing, June too soon, July standby, blah, 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 and the rest of that. So we have to prepare ourselves, but we must recognize the effort that the government has put into it so far. I mean, $25 million is not an easy thing, easy measure. So we must recognize that. And then I am also informed that I think starting this week, farmers would also be getting their own share that was promised to them by the government. So we have to commend the government, but also we have to urge individuals going forward to make sure they prepare themselves properly for what might come our way again in terms of the weather this year. Also, Joel, mentioned last week's program. I just want to, I myself, I look back as I normally do to the issue at hand, responses to the issue at hand, and last week was very strong. We had a number of views, one of the strongest I've seen for a long time. Clearly, it means that the program did a good thing, and even more than that, the Honorable Minister Camilo Gonzalez, Minister of Finance, did a fantastic job in addressing the issues that arose. It's a recognition of that, in my view. But it was the number of views was really it was high. All right, but there's one thing that one of the reactions I noted. Well, two. I want to just mention. One could be two. If you recall, Minister Gonzalez mentioned that in the absence of any recent survey, actually he did mention the survey, the Labor Force Survey of 2022, that stated that the government the country has an unemployment figure of 10.8%. But he said that in the absence of any recent or more recent survey, he and I guess the government is using proxy data to give an indication, a more up-to-date indication as to where the level of unemployment is. In fact, he said, using that method and the NIS data source as proxy data, he said that he thinks that unemployment is in the high single digit at this point in time. And there were one or two people who responded to that by saying, one, you can't use proxy data, and secondly, that NIS data is not reliable. Is not reliable. So both of them, those two things are incorrect. As far as I am aware, in the academic world, people use proxy data routinely when they cannot get recent or more direct data. Proxy data is as a way of doing research and of coming to conclusion is a thing that you do when you're doing research among those in academia. So it is not correct to say you can't use proxy data or proxy data is not suitable. That is totally incorrect. You use proxy data even when you're doing scientific research where that calls for more precise data. Proxy data is used, a regular thing. And that's when you can get direct measurements. The other thing is that the use of the NIS data. Labor force surveys are what they are. They're surveys. They're based on probabilities and they're based on samples. So that you have within it, when you do those kind of surveys, you have margins of error. It's not 100% reliability. You have margins of error. In the case of the use of NIS data, that's NIS data, in my view, and in view of the person who would want to look at it objectively, is that it's very accurate. In a sense, it's either yes or no. When the NIS record you as an employee, you either are working or not working. So it's either yes, one for yes, as far as the computer is concerned, or zero for no. So the NIS data is very accurate in terms of giving an indication as to where we are in terms of our employment.
Yeah, if I may just say that NIS data will create those who are registered.
I know that.
No, but who have been working at some point during the period in question. But it doesn't.
But let me finish. I am aware of all of that. But the point is this, that it is registered data, yes, no. 1 yes, as far as the computer is concerned. 0, no, as far as the computer is concerned. So the level of error is the probability for error there is less than the probability for error when you do a survey.
Yeah, no, there's no error. There's no error. But what is
no, but there's a probability of error. Somebody could type in something.
Yeah, but
so the probability of error is less in the case of the NIS data as a case of doing labor force. So,
but I'm trying. What does the NIS data reflect?
Well, I don't know if you want to go into that discussion.
No, but if you say it is accurate, you have to say accurate in terms of what? In terms of what? Because if you're saying that NIS has a figure,
it gives you a measure of people who are working currently. That's what it does. And that's all we need to know insofar as the use of proxy data is concerned.
No, well, that is why the NIS will basically tell you. Even if you speak with the thing, they'll just say, these are the people who have registered as being employed at some stage during the period being considered. But it does not take into consideration whether or not the person would have worked 12 months, 11 months, 10 months, 4 months, or whatever. At a particular, these are the person who would have worked during a particular period. So I'm just saying it doesn't take into consideration the whole question of underemployment.
No, I wasn't talking about unemployment.
Well, that's why you say when you say it's accurate, it's kind of misleading.
Unemployment.
It's misleading, Cecil.
No. We're talking about current state of employment, not underemployment.
But it is misleading.
Let me finish. We're talking about those people who are working. That's all, simple and direct. So I'm saying the data from the NIS gives a very strong indication as to the level of unemployment or employment, as opposed to the proxy data, which is as opposed to the survey, labor force survey, because labor force survey is a sample. And secondly, people go out and do face-to-face questionnaire things, and it depends on their ability to reach people and to ask the right questions, or ask the questions correctly. So the probability of error there is much higher than the probability of error in the NIS database. That's all I'm saying. So when the use of proxy data, when it is the NIS data is referred to as proxy data, there's nothing wrong with that. It's absolutely correct to use proxy data. Scientists do it all the time.
But it doesn't tell the whole story.
No database tells the whole story.
No, particularly with I don't want to belabor the issue, but I'm just basically saying the NIS should actually declare when they give a figure of 45,000 or whatever it is, what exactly this represents. And maybe we should get that clear. Say, NIS, what does this figure of 45,000 or 46,000, what does it represent exactly?
Well,
maybe we should get that.
I don't think it's the NIS business to do that.
They should. No, I think it is.
No.
It's an important statistic.
No, it's not. They're not. That's not their work.
But we can get it. We'll get it.
Let's get this call. Let me see. I think I recognize them. Good morning. Welcome to the program.
Cecil.
Oh. Morning. This sounds like Lansford.
Yes,
I'm glad you're calling. You're the man. You're the statistician, and you're the man who.
Just a correction, Cecil. The NIS data is not proxy.
No, I didn't say that. I agree with you. I didn't say that.
It's another source of data.
Yeah.
And the NIS data can supplement the labor force survey data. In other words, it can be used as an alternative, as well as it can be used to validate the labor force survey. The Minister of Finance, some time ago, not during his last visit, his last presentation here, he gave the methodology that the World Bank used to calculate the unemployment rate from the NIS data. I can do that, Cecil, because all of the definitions, you can get them using the labor force. All you will be doing is making some assumptions based on the law. The assumption is under the law, well, the law is not an assumption. The law provides for this, but you can make an assumption that it is actually happening, that all employees ought to be registered. And then you can look at those who pay, who make contributions. And you make contributions when you work. So when you collect labor force data, there is more than one reference period. A reference period for a year, and in that you take a certain portion of the year to determine how long, whether or not. Let me use an example. So a question on the form may be, how many months or what period did you work for during the last year? And that can address the issue that Joel was referring to in terms of one segment of the underemployed. You can do the same thing for the NIS data. The NIS data is what is referred to as administrative records. The labor force survey is a primary source of data. And there's nothing that says which one you must use. You choose to use one depending on the circumstances that prevail and what you're collecting the data for. What I mean by this, collecting data is a very expensive exercise. Whether you're doing it through administratively or you're doing it through a census or a survey. The census is the field, when you're collecting primary data, it's usually more expensive. And depending on what you're collecting that data for, if you're just using it to give benchmarks, then you may choose not to spend that amount of money. There's also, as you've been hinting at, Cecil, probably speaking about, the reliability of the data. St. Vincent and the Grenadines is a place where we are not accustomed to conducting surveys on a regular basis. There are places where labor force surveys are conducted monthly using a sample or quarterly and so forth. In a situation like that, where that is happening and happening over long periods, people readily respond to the enumerator in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. One of the things I have been told and experienced is getting information from respondents is like pulling a tooth without anesthetic. I've experienced it. It's difficult, and so sometimes it's better. It's, as you said, Cecil, it gives you more reliable data than if you go out in the field. What you have to do is to pay attention to all of the issues regarding data, the issues that can generate sampling errors, and the issues that can generate non-sampling errors. And you take that into consideration when you're analyzing and interpreting your data.
Go ahead.
Yeah, if I may just add, Lansford, good to hear you. I haven't seen you for quite a while. Hope you're doing well.
Oh, it's perfect for you. As a matter of fact, the minister said the World Bank provided the financing for it to be done. I think it was in 2022 or sometime thereafter.
Yeah, but what okay, that's fine. What I just really wanted to say, from my understanding, I'm not saying that I'm correct, but the NIS will indicate the number of contributors towards the program during a particular period. And they'll say that they have virtually X number of persons, but they're not. The numbers do not say that they have worked for more than 100 days or more than 10 months, or they made more than 46 payments out of 52 or 104, whatever the case may be. That is not, as far as I'm saying, that is not what this figure reflects. And I think basically that we should just take the NIS figure as an indicator, yes, but it must not be treated as if this is what the reflection of the employment or unemployment situation is in St. Vincent and use that as gospel.
Joel, I don't know if you heard when the minister made the press. I'm not talking about from the gone. Sometime before the minister made it, and I think he did it in Parliament at one time though, made an extensive presentation on a methodology used by someone who did the study and was supported by the World Bank. And I hold that you may be correct. The NIS may choose to just publish that information if that is what is asked for, that you referred to a while ago. But I am very confident when that person did the study, that the minister concluded or the study concluded a certain level of unemployment, that person or that team would have used and considered all of the definitions that are normally used in a labor force survey. It can be done.
Okay. The ECCB had one, Lansford,
and I believe that is what was done.
And 2 years ago, though, had a figure of, I think it's around 19%, 18.8 or 19.8%.
No, I think it was much lower than that when the minister reported.
No, I'm just saying, indicated of what I saw on the ECCB.
Something percent.
I'm just telling about what I went to the ECCB website, and this is the information that I recall seeing. Right? I'm just saying that I think it's 2 years ago.
Well, again, it depends on what source of data the ECCB is using and when that data was collected.
Yeah, well, this is what I'm just indicating. I'm not saying that
the census data, which is done every 10 years, as is our source of data. The World Bank, the ECCB, etc., they use that data and adjust it in the same way the population data is used and adjusted. So that's why you find you will get one figure on the World Bank site, you'll get a different figure on the ECCB site, and probably a different one on the IMF site, because they use our primary data and they adjust it accordingly. When I worked as a statistician, I had a serious issue 1 year with the World Bank team. I did a detailed study to come up with the national accounts and projected a certain level of growth. And they came and, without even looking at my data, without looking at my worksheet, they wanted to adjust it. And I said, no, this can't be. Fortunately, I had Laura Brown, who was still with the central bank in the mission. And I sat down with her and showed her my methodology, my worksheets, etc. And she stood up for me, stood up with me. And the World Bank had to accept it. And that's what they publish. So these internet, they choose our primary data and they adjust it accordingly. And nothing is wrong with that because they have their assumptions. But it doesn't mean that the assumptions would always be correct. Because that time I'm speaking of, the assumptions were not correct. And I was able to point out to them why the assumptions were not correct.
Okay. I'm not.
The main thing I called to say though,
Yeah.
that the NIS data, it's not proxy data. It's
Right.
another source of data.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's data from administrative records as compared to primary source data that comes from a survey or a census.
Well, thank you very much,
Thank you,
Lansford, for calling and for making those clarifying points. I understand the point you're making, and I may have made some, in terms of the way I put forward the ideas, I may have slipped here and there, but you're the statistician, so I bow to you. Thank you very much for your input this morning. But it's a simple point I wanted to make, gentlemen. Hold on, so this going. Is that Finance Minister Gonzalez, when he spoke on that last week, he was bang on. He wasn't incorrect. That's the simple point I was trying to make. And incidentally, the survey that or the study that Lansford referred to, they quote a figure that was done in 2022, and they quote a figure of 10.8% unemployment. I have a copy of it. I don't remember the order offhand, but I have a copy of it stored on my laptop. So that's the simple point I was making, that Minister Gonzalez last week, Finance Minister, he was correct. First of all, he was correct too in the reference to proxy data. And secondly, in terms of talking about the the NIS, he was also correct. So that's all I was making. That's the point. Anyway, we have the input, and we can move on from there. I want to remind our listeners that we're waiting to get into our main discussion, and we have our expert in studio with us. We'll introduce him in a while, but we have to apologize to him for taking so long in the preliminary. And yet, I want to play a tape. It might be about 7 minutes, 7.5 minutes.
That's a bit long. You could.
No, it's not long. It's not long. It has to be played. It must be played. It has to do with what's happening in Burkina Faso. So let's hear it from Captain Ibrahim Traore. I saw it's one of those things that is necessary to be played.
Ancestors burning in my chest, and the red dust of Burkina Faso still on my boots.
Incidentally, this is an address he's addressing St. Thanks to Jamaicans. So let's hear it from the beginning.
With the fire of the ancestors burning in my chest, and the red dust of Burkina Faso still on my boots. I come not as a head of state speaking to a foreign people, but as a son of Africa reaching out to his kin across the sea. I come as a revolutionary brother who recognizes in your struggles the reflections of our own. I come to honor your pain, salute your courage, and share in your enduring vision of freedom, from Ouagadougou to Kingston. From the Sahel winds to the tropical breeze of the Caribbean, we are bound by the same ancestral drumbeat. We are the children of ancient civilizations disrupted by conquest, torn by slavery, and tested by imperial deception. Yet we are also the descendants of those who never bowed, the Maroons who defied empire, the Burkinabe who rose with Sankara, the freedom fighters whose spirits still roam our hills, mountains, and deserts. Our story is not one of defeat, it is one of unbroken resistance. Jamaica, you are not small. You are mighty in memory, in rhythm, in soul. You are the flame that has kept burning in the night of oppression. You are the defiance of Queen Nanny, the vision of Marcus Garvey, the revolution of sound that came from Peter Tosh and Bob Marley. Your island is not isolated, it is a beacon, a fortress of the African spirit in the Atlantic. When I listen to Bob Marley, I do not hear entertainment, I hear sacred instruction. Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. These words echo in every occupied corner of our continent. For while the chains of iron were broken long ago, the chains of the mind still hold many of us hostage. They come not with soldiers, but with debt. They come not with whips, but with NGOs. They do not enforce submission through colonial laws, but through economic blackmail, cultural domination, and the silencing of truth. Africa knows this well. In Burkina Faso, we buried Thomas Sankara, a son of the soil who dared to dream aloud. He spoke of self-reliance, dignity, and anti-imperialism. For that, they killed him. Not just foreign agents, but collaborators from within. That is the great tragedy of our times. That betrayal too often wears a familiar face. Yet the flame he lit has not died. It has moved from village to village, heart to heart, until once again, the people have stood and said, enough. We are reclaiming our voice, our resources, our futures. And in doing so, we recognize the same spirit in you, Jamaica. Jamaica, your story is Africa's story. Your Maroons are our freedom fighters. Your sugar fields mirror our cotton plantations. Your stolen children found themselves on ships whose sails were soaked in blood. And yet you built music from suffering, wisdom from wounds, and solidarity from struggle. Peter Tosh roared, I don't want no peace. I need equal rights and justice. This is not a protest, it is a prophecy. Peace without justice is the silence of the oppressed. We do not want handouts. We want fairness. We want truth. We want the world to see us not as problems to manage, but as partners in the shaping of a new global reality. But the system is not neutral. The West did not become powerful through diplomacy alone. It gained its wealth from stolen labor, looted resources, and conquered minds. And when we resist, they do not hesitate to destabilize, discredit, or destroy. We have seen it with Lumumba, with Nkrumah, with Gaddafi, and again with every African nation that tries to stand upright. And yet, they fear our unity. They fear the moment when Africa and the Caribbean, when the children of the diaspora and the children of the continent recognize that we are one. That fear is justified, for that moment has arrived. You are not a dot on a map. You are not a nation of 9 parishes. You are not just reggae and beaches. You are the heartbeat of a global consciousness. Your resistance echoes from Accra to Addis Ababa. Your pride feeds the souls of those still struggling to walk upright in a world built to keep them crawling. Jamaica, your youth are warriors of knowledge, of rhythm, of revolution. Do not wait to be told you matter. Stand, create, mobilize, build cooperatives, guard your land. Teach your children the stories not found in colonial textbooks. Let them know their lineage is not one of shame, but of unmatched strength. To the elders, we thank you. Your memory is sacred. You who remember when resistance had a cost, when black skin was a target, when black thought was a threat, you are the living libraries of our struggle. Your wisdom is our blueprint. Tell us the names they tried to erase. Sing the songs they feared. Carry the flames they tried to extinguish. To the leaders I offer a challenge. Be not middlemen for empire. Be not brokers of foreign interest. Be servants of the people. Build economies that feed your people, not your bank accounts. Reject policies that silence the poor to please the powerful. Know that history will remember, and it will judge. To the artists, the poets, the musicians, be prophets. Do not let your art be tamed by the market. Create not for profit alone, but for liberation. Let your verses be swords. Let your paintings be protests. Let your lyrics carry the rage, the joy, the dreams of the people. To the farmers, thank you. You who still understand the sacredness of land. You who feed nations while the world turns to artificial convenience. You are the keepers of true wealth. To the women queens of our lineage, warriors of our future, you are not background. You are not support. You are leaders. Raise your voices. Guard your daughters. Shape the policies. Lead the movements. Without you, there is no revolution. Let us build a new axis not of exploitation, but of solidarity. Let our trade routes carry cassava and yam, not cocaine and guns. Let our classrooms teach African literature and Caribbean poetry. Let our children know that they are heirs not to trauma, but to greatness. Let us declare an end to being laboratories for foreign experiments. Let us fund our own research, heal our own wounds, tell our own stories, trust our own instincts, celebrate our own holidays, honor our own gods. Let us imagine the future. A Jamaica with food sovereignty, universal education, and dignified housing. A Burkina Faso with clean water, just laws, and strong institutions. A global black community that does not beg but builds, that does not apologize but asserts. Let this be our mission, not nostalgia, but forward motion. Not despair, but defiance. Not revenge, but reconstruction. The drums have never stopped. The ancestors are watching. The youth are rising. The soil is still rich. The dream is still alive. One Africa, one Caribbean, one struggle, one destiny. Thank you.
Well, gentlemen, and those of you who are following us, so it's been a long one, almost 8 minutes, but it's worth it. The statements that the president made in his message to Jamaica could well be addressed to us as well, and it has in it, in my view, elements of what is being tried here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Even as we celebrated last week, indigenous form of worship, the spiritual Baptist, that has in it, that statement has that in it as well, and it builds and it shows that we need to believe in ourselves. We need to recognize our struggle, although we don't dwell in it going forward. We need to recognize solidarity, the importance of solidarity. We need to recognize that we need decent housing, decent health care, and all the rest of that, decent living. And that is why I thought it was useful to play that piece by the president. Good morning. Welcome to the program.
Good morning to you, Cecil. Good morning to my brother Joel. This is Bigger Bigs here.
Greetings.
Good morning, good morning. You think listening to my son of the spirit, I don't know how I recognize him. The son of my spirit,
Okay.
Abraham Traore. You think after hearing that speech there by him, you really want to still compare him with and Ralph together?
That is not the purpose of the program, you know. Bigger Bigs.
My brother, I got, love you all. I don't make me point at God.
Sorry, it's so unfortunate. You don't get it. You didn't get it. That's certainly not the purpose of this program this morning. The purpose of the program is to discuss the management of traffic here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And it's about a good time to get into
Cecil,
our discussion. Yeah, Pijan. Yeah.
You played a clip, and he's responding to it.
Mm-hmm.
But then you say this is not the purpose of the program to discuss traffic.
What I meant, the main purpose. I remember I said the main purpose of the. Yeah, but go ahead.
But he just simply responded to the clip, not necessarily to
the program
Or
itself.
to prolong the discussion. He had a point he wanted to make.
So he's made his point, and I'm just responding to the point he's made as the moderator of the program.
But
So I
just make
responded to
one point, not in follow from what Bigger Big said.
Yeah.
But I have a concern with YouTube. That is why YouTube does not have good and proper censorship of what is posted, and a lot of the things are quite inaccurate, if not classified as fake. Now, I do support Ibrahim Traore and what he's trying to do in Burkina Faso and certainly in all of Africa, and by extension, African peoples around the world. But more and more, sometimes I have to analyze that whether or not this is the work of AI and so on, and that. So I question it, but I'm not saying conclusively one way or the other, because I checked his language and so basically it's an official language of Burkina Faso is French, and then they have other languages like Fool and so forth. They have some patterns of English spoken, but the quality of the thing and the quality of the tape sounds like AI. And that is why I'm a little bit hesitant to accept that this is a true thing of coming from the mouth of Ibrahim Traore. I'm hesitant.
First of all,
I'm not challenging it.
Yeah, but first of all, Captain Ibrahim Traore speaks English very well. That's the first thing. Secondly, the contents of that piece, it doesn't matter who it came from or whether or not it's genuinely Captain Ibrahim Traore's. The point is that, is there anything in that speech you want to disagree with?
No.
What was said?
No.
Right. That's the essence. That's the essence of why that's the reason I
yeah, but you represented that it was actual. This is coming from Captain Ibrahim.
Yeah, but I'm not going to question whether or not it's genuine or not at this point. The whole world knows what's happening in Burkina Faso. Yeah, and the whole world knows is lined up behind the president. So I don't think it's an issue we want to discuss, really. I just played it because I think the speech itself, regardless who wrote it, has some important elements of important elements for any people who has experienced enslavement, conquest, slavery, colonization, imperialism, whatever it is. So, I mean, I would not even blink an eye to play that. And I'll play it again some other time in the future. But right now we have to get into our main. We have had our guests waiting a long time. Although I hope he doesn't mind listening to these pieces. And this morning, really, we want to look at the question of the management of our roads, traffic, basically, how it is currently, present situation, and when you look forward, what are the challenges that the present situation poses, and how we are going to deal with those challenges. And I think, Joel, when you spoke earlier in the preliminary, you mentioned the question of law and order. And, well, you mentioned order living. And I think given what's happening currently and what's to happen in terms of our development thrust and focus, it's an important discussion, a timely discussion as well. And we have in studio to assist us with that discussion, Assistant Superintendent of Police, Mr. Panel Brown. So, ASP Brown, welcome to the program. Welcome to the studio. We're happy to have you. And it's over to you to lead this discussion. But I want to ask you, though, first of all, sorry, not to ask, but I want to commend you and your department for the successful, well, you need to say whether or not it was successful. Safety week last week, you had a week to promote safety. So first of all, welcome, and then you could tell us how that week went.
Yes, good morning to you, Cecil, and Mr. Providence, and the well-known Pigeon.
Good morning.
Good morning to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and wherever this broadcast is being viewed or heard. I am Panel Brown, as Mr. Cecil said. I am the officer in charge, traffic, transport, and garage here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Now, it is a very important topic that we're going to discuss this morning: the management of traffic, or the status of traffic here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And as the head of the traffic department, with the backings of the Commissioner of Police, who is the licensing authority, there are some challenges. In every aspect of life, we have challenges, but it's how we deal with them and find ways in which we can make things better going forward. Last Sunday, the 25th, we commenced our week of activities, Road Safety Week, under the theme, Safer Roads, Safer Community, is a shared responsibility. And some aspect of it, we engaged the general public, because we had a panel discussion at the Peace Memorial Hall on Wednesday, and coming out from that, where we had the Minister of Transport and Works, the Deputy Prime Minister Montgomery Daniel, he was present at the discussion. We had representative from the Ministry of Health. We had representative from the insurance company. We had the representative from, well, the Commissioner of Police, who is the licensing authority, and myself was also part of the panel. We had also a representative from the Roads Engineers Department, which plays a very important role in shaping our roadway. The week of activity was challenging, but it was a success, and we culminate on Friday with a march and rally through Kingstown, and the rally was held at Heritage Square, where we had addresses from various speakers, including the Attorney General, who gave the feature speech. It was a success, and I believe, and I know that the week of activity was very timely, because I know the challenges that we face on the roads here every day in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Well, what would you consider as some of those challenges, SB?
Non-compliance with the present laws that exist here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Compliance with resistance. Lack of proper, sometimes in some cases where legislation need to be updated, and so on and so forth. I mean, it's very challenging. It is very challenging.
Mm-hmm. By the way, guys, whenever you feel like it, so you have those challenges, and as you mentioned, challenges. I encounter myself as a user of our roads. I encounter myself sometimes. I see people when they're driving, they have their cell phone using their cell phone. They overtake in places where they ought not to overtake. I see some trucks, and in particular trailers plying the roads and without any escort, and sometimes it's tight. I'm not questioning the ability of those drivers to drive. I think some of them are master drivers, but still, given the conditions of our road, the terrain, and the fact that the number of vehicles that are now plying the roads, I think those are some of the things that add to the challenges, and many, many other challenges. But those are some of the things. So the question is, well, I'm sure, SP, that you are aware of those things. I'm sure the department is aware of those things.
Yes.
What are the measures are you using to minimize the probability of accidents and so on?
Well, Cecil, what we continues to do is to educate persons on social media as to how they can go about on our roads, making themselves safer. And one such thing is that we go in schools also, because I believe there have to be a beginning point, a point where you begin to enlighten people before they reach the stage of obtaining their driver's license. So if you're embedded in the generations to come that these things are not acceptable as far as the law is concerned, I think we're on a good path. Now, in terms of the cellular phones while driving, it is a serious concern that we need to address soonest. We have seen, and most of the drivers, when they are stopped or they get into any infractions with the law, they're not forthright in speaking the truth. I can remember vividly, sometime last week, a police officer would have stopped a driver of a public service transport and asked him, why you're on your cellular phone and you're driving passengers and so on. And he said, you see me on my phone? But it was in an area where we had cameras, and we seek to have footage of the incident. And it was clear that before the officer would have stopped the driver had his cellular phone in his right hand, which is closer to the door, and the camera clearly had it. But when he got to the barracks, and he had persons he would have called who are in society, and they would have made calls to say, what is the foolishness? You see?
Sorry, can you clarify what you mean? Who is in society? What do you mean?
Cecil, I believe,
No, I don't. Some listeners don't know what you're talking about.
I believe in our society, in our environment here, when we speak to the normal man, we speak about the normal man, or the normal man speaks, and they say, not because you have people in society. I think you know what that statement
I may know, but I'm saying
people of influence.
Yeah,
people of influence.
All right. Because people all over the world listen to us, eh? So yes. So people of influence.
Yes,
Okay.
People of influence. And when it got down to it, and the video was really released and so on, it was a time for reflection and to apologize. So sometimes you don't always at first sight or hearing you believe because you and somebody are related. You take all the facts before you make decisions or you make your calls.
So you say the driver of that vehicle in that incident simply apologized. That's what you're saying?
In the long run.
In the long run?
Yeah.
So he wasn't charged, or he or she?
Well, he was charged.
Okay.
Because the way how the incident unfolded, it requires some level of correction, which the law speaks about.
But the idea that A driver could think of calling someone of influence is a bit disturbing.
It happens all the time, Pigeon.
So that humbugs how the police does its job.
No, it does not deter us from doing our job because remember we have a legal way of operating.
Okay.
And every citizen have a right to life. They have a right to whatever. But in the process, the law must be maintained.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I speak about it in almost every forum. The way in which people view us on entering our country, they draw their inference from the way the motorists conduct themselves on the road.
Mm-hmm.
A good point.
The way how people view us sometimes, they take their inference from the way they see motorists conduct themselves on the road.
And the SPA brought that ties in with the whole thing about order. When
Order,
they enter the country and
yes.
say, this is what the reflection
Yes.
of what life is like in St. Vincent.
Of course. So we have a very challenging task, and
In fact, SP, let me just play a clip here that came out of your conference last week. It's by the voice of Philbert Taylor, who was one of the panelists. I just want the people to hear what he said.
And with these final observations and and comments, with the coming on stream of the Argyle International Airport and the building of more hotels in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, it will increase the flow of visitors to our shows. It will increase the traffic on our roads. So they will need more transportation to get around, to enjoy St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I see an increase in rentals, in tour operators, and public transport services. This will change the dynamics and demand for us to provide safer roads in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Because when these people start getting into accidents and injured, listen, you never know what demands they can make on us, So we have our work cut out for us. I say we because we are all a part of this in this nation building exercise. We are a small third world country. We don't have a lot of money. One superstar savings might be equated to the whole of St. Vincent and the Grenadines budget. So it's not a lot of money we have, and we have to really dig deep to manage our resources and find creative ways to address these challenges.
So that's what part of what Mr. Taylor said at the. You remember that statement that he made?
Yes, I do remember that statement.
Is it a big challenge to find creative ways to manage our traffic?
I don't see a big problem in managing our traffic. We would have had a revised edition of the law that from the 1902 in 2009, and presently the present administration is reviewing that revised edition from 2009 to have a further revised and up-to-date traffic laws to manage the state of St. Vincent and the Grenadines going forward. So, while there are legislation in place and it needs updating, I believe the administration is doing what they have to do in order to bring that to be in.
Yeah, John.
Okay, I want to ask a series of questions. I kind of compartmentalize my questions that are going to direct you. To the end, I'll come to the vehicle itself, like what are the legislation in terms of like tinting the license plates and so forth, the vehicle itself. But as you made reference to that matter about the driver on a public service vehicle, you didn't say exactly whether it's a truck, a van, or whatever it is, but let's assume it's a public service vehicle. And we have been talking for quite a long time, not just in terms of the conduct of the drivers, whether they're on the cell phone or sometimes they even consuming beverages that they ought not to be while driving, and they have 15 or plus passengers on the, but also the question of the loud music and so on. And this has been an issue, loud and sometimes vulgar music. What exactly is the traffic police doing about it? What can be done? And how successful have you been in the recent months and years towards arresting or addressing that problem?
That problem is a growing issue that we have not fully arrested in terms of bringing under control, but we are trying. There's some part of the legislation that is silent, and that aspect of it is under review. In terms of presently, we doesn't have, let's say, a decibel where the law speaks to that you can play your music at a level. We doesn't have that. The law just vaguely, and there are two aspects of it. Under the traffic regulation, it speaks about musical instruments should not be played in any public service vehicle or in any vehicle without the authorization of the licensing authority, which is the Commissioner of Police. And on the criminal side, it speaks about playing loud music, which covers household, residential areas, and so on and so forth. But it does not narrow it down to a decibel or to say, it's just that permission must be had from the licensing authority to play musical instrument in your vehicle.
So SP, you're saying that loudness is not defined, it's not specified.
It is not defined.
It's not okay.
It is not defined.
And how is musical instrument defined?
Well, in another aspect of the law, which deals with the household, is say any speaker, any things of that sort, amplifier, any horn, and so on and so forth. It describes musical instrument as such.
A radio with speakers is included in
It's included in that. It's included in that.
So you can actually take action against a public service vehicle and a driver just for playing music in the van.
Yes.
But then it would appear to be discriminatory if you're only targeting one class of driver and everyone else who plays music.
Well, fortunately, it does not happen. We across the board, whether you're driving a private vehicle, a rented vehicle, a public service vehicle, that whether it's a truck or a van vehicle, as long as it is being brought to the attention of the police or within the hearing of the police, the necessary action is taken.
But your members of your team, the branch, they will hear the loud music on the vans all the time, right? But they do not take action against the drivers of the van, as far as I can recall. No, but certainly not often enough. I'm not, because I keep hearing the same loud music on the vans.
Now, Mr. Providence, I would like you to retract that statement.
I would love to.
And I'm going to give you reasons why you should retract the statement. Whenever a motorist, and I am not saying that the traffic department are the only one that enforces the law, but whenever a motorist is playing music outside of the areas that he knows that a traffic man is not present. They continue to play the music. But when they realize they are going to come into an area where the enforcers normally be, they lower the music tremendously that you can't even stay outside and hear a boom. It's like you have the zones, and mind you, the public service transport have a network. It might not be an organized network where they have an association, but they have a network where if the traffic department is in an area, the most person are doing law enforcement or in checks and so, the most person you can catch, probably one or two. After that, everybody else know that the police is at Villa, the police is at Diamond. They have a network. So when they approach in that area, or even in Kingston, they approach it normal.
Is that they call each other? That's
Of
what
course.
Oh, that's what you're saying. They call.
Of course. Yeah, they have a network. The messages are relayed real fast. Boy, traffic police is in Diamond. And sometimes they even find different routes to transport the passengers to Kingstown or to their varying destination. So it is a network that is growing.
So,
But
that's a form of challenge too.
Very much so. It is a challenge. And in our program last week, where I call on all the departments, the out district, to get on board and to we have to join together to fight this fight. It's a fight that the traffic department cannot do alone. We need all hands on deck. And I reiterate that, in my address last Friday.
When you say all hands on deck, what exactly do you mean? You mean you want to get
all the police in the out district and all citizens who are affected, because not every citizen is affected. There are some citizens who are fond of the music and the way the drivers drive.
To what extent though can citizens assist? I don't quite. What can they do?
Now, Mr. Providence speak a while ago about drivers driving and drinking and so on and so forth. That is a no-no. If you're in a public service transport, let's say an omnibus, and you would have recognized the driver and conductor, because the law clearly speaks that the driver and conductor of the vehicle should not be under the influence of drugs and alcohol. And there are cases where this was reported to the police, and the matters were investigated, and persons were brought to the court and so on. You can report it to the
when
police.
you say you as a civilian,
Yes.
But what proof would he be able to provide?
What proof?
Yeah.
We do our investigation. And I don't think that sometimes people record them on the cellular phones and they bring the clips to us. And sometimes they come genuinely. And after investigation, sometimes the drivers do admit, man, I had a bay, what is wrong with that? Not knowing, that we're still going to take action. But I had a bay, I stopped by the shop and I had a bay, what is wrong with that? I was thirsty. And that is the analogy they will draw.
So the thing is that they would stop, buy a beer or get a beer with a bottle, and go into the vehicle.
Go into the vehicle
and drive with that beer in their hand.
And drink it while driving.
Okay. Yeah, Jordan, I think yes.
How do you if you want to contact the traffic department, is there a particular number that takes you straight to the traffic department, or you have to go through the PBX?
You go to the PBX 71311 and ask them to put you onto the traffic department. We have several extensions there.
And between what period?
Any period, the traffic department never closes.
And repeat the number.
4571211.
4571311.
71211. 211.
Jody, have some other questions you say you wanted to?
Yes. I just want to ask a couple with regard to public service vehicle, and then I want to move on to another related matter. Like for example, at Anna's Vale, I noticed, for example, that when vehicles are coming from Kingstown, and there's heavy traffic crossing from Joshua Center going to the windward side, over to the bridge on the other side of the former the tarmac. The vans find a pathway to go across the tarmac, and they find their own shortcut. But there is never anyone there to say, well, look, no, you have to turn back. You have to go and follow the rule and the route like everyone else. And there's never no one there at this. I don't know if you're aware of that, and if whether or not you are addressing that particular situation.
Yes, I am aware. The department is aware of that. It's not what I should say. It's not. We as an organization and the department cannot at all times cover all the gullies and the by roads and the bypass roads. We are trying to do as much as we can do. Sometimes we have cyclists. We have a motorcycle to patrol the area. I know sometimes if he is patrolling coming towards the moon and he would have passed the tarmac, sometimes it doesn't deter a motorist from coming out from the line and go to a bypass road. So while the concern exists, we are still trying to see what we can do to limit the amount of persons who commit these acts.
How can we encourage the drivers, all of us, to comply with the traffic ordinances and so on? How can you keep getting the message out to us and so on? You mentioned a while ago about social media. I wasn't aware that you actually had whether it's a Facebook page or anything. I wasn't aware. How can we get persons to follow you and so forth? And how do we get the message on using all media available?
Well, we have a Facebook page. We go through the public relations and complaints department. They also have a Facebook page. We do live programs every day, Monday to Friday on 7.5 and 99.9. So we are still finding means and ways of getting our message across while using the media.
How effective would you say those messages are?
They are effective because sometimes when you arrest like a motorist and they are in the office at the Central Police Station, you will hear them quote part of the program that would have been they would have heard broadcast. So that's a good way of knowing that our message, they are reaching the drivers, they are reaching the general public.
They're hearing, but not necessarily adhering.
Well, sometimes I believe at this spotty moment when they would have been committing their acts, they know they do it at a risk, and if they're being caught, what are the consequences?
Question. I think you mentioned manpower challenges. How many dedicated officers we have assigned to traffic?
I can't remember mentioning manpower, but I can answer your question.
Yeah, okay. Well, you said you don't have people to be in every nook and cranny.
Yes, I don't think there are any organization, any law enforcement organization in the world who would have had manpower to cover every angle of. Otherwise, we wouldn't have crime being committed.
but still, in terms of the persons assigned dedicated to traffic, I know the gray shirts are not necessarily assigned to traffic, but they can still do traffic interventions. But in terms of the dedicated number assigned to traffic itself,
we have 24 officers, police, assigned to the traffic department. We have 4 traffic wardens, in Kingston. We have a few in the out district. But the figure does not reflect what we had before, but it just, that is what we have presently. And those guys are working tremendously to bring some respectability to law and order here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Oftentimes, you don't hear people highlight the work that is being done. They highlight the problem that they see. But I like to recommend that they recognize the hard work of the traffic department.
Do you share that information with the public?
I share it all the time.
The hard work, the hard work.
I share it all the time.
Okay.
And I'll give you an example. We have presently over 35,000 vehicles that we are managing along with our citizens. Now, I want you to do the equation. 24 police officers charged with the responsibility of maintaining the traffic laws to see how over 35,000 vehicles along with other pedestrians and so on, how effectively they can be.
From your experience, ASP, what additional measures do you think should be put in place to assist you in managing the traffic?
I believe there should be more cameras.
In Kingston or throughout?
Throughout. There
Okay.
should be more cameras being erected in strategic areas to cover some aspect. And, you know, Cecil, the cameras doesn't only capture traffic violations. It captures acts of criminal behaviors too. So, I mean, it's not that I am calling for something that will only captures one aspect of our being. It also captures the criminal aspect of our society, which is of concern for us.
And again, it points to the same point that Joel raised before, the whole question of maintaining order in the society.
Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
In the panel discussion last week, one of the someone in the audience would have asked a question of the minister if it is time that they reintroduce traffic lights to assist. I cannot remember the answer that the minister gave, but he would have answered the question. But we at the traffic department, you know, in this time, I believe having all the traffic violation, the strict liability offenses being ticketable, I believe that would be a great way of assisting ensuring that we are equipped, because there are still offenses on the books that you have to go through the long process of writing up. There are a lot of offenses that you can't go and just issue a ticket. And I will share an experience with you. I was coming to go to the church service last week. And when I got to Sand Hill, I saw a motor vehicle, a grey car. I'm not going to reveal the registration number. And a child was was in the back seat of the vehicle, the side, on the left side of the vehicle, with his head and hands out of the vehicle standing. And when I got to KFC, the driver pulled over to the left. I don't know for what reason. So I said, driver was trying to get your attention. How could you have the child? And the child was still standing while I was talking to him. How could you get the child standing up in the vehicle and have his hands and head out of the vehicle? I told him to sit down, you know, and, you know, I mean, you know, and, you know, this, I cannot. And the law does not support us issuing a ticket for that. Having a child, no, you have to go through. So there are aspects of the law, I think, which needs to be brought up to date in order for a ticket. If you're wearing your seatbelt, you can't issue someone for ticket for seatbelt offense. I'm telling you, there are some offenses that you just have to go through and go the long way of reporting against. taken direct to court. I could understand driving without due care and attention, dangerous driving, without reasonable consideration for other road users, and so on and so forth, careless driving. Those are not ticketable offenses because they require some more serious reflection and investigation. But like these offenses, they can be made ticketable. That will be of some.
So explain the difference between a ticketable offense and an offense that you have to go through the process.
A ticketed offense is an offense that is legislated that you can issue a ticket for, like failing to comply for a road sign, failing to comply with the lawful direction, and so on and so forth.
And you go straight to the traffic and you just pay the money.
Go and pay the money and you go your merry way.
But is there still an option to go to court if you refuse to pay?
Yeah, there's still an option to go to court. If you believe that your act was not in a way that you requires the issuing of a ticket, you can challenge it in court. But if you believe to yourself that you will have committed the infringement, you can go to the traffic department or the magistrate court or the treasury and pay your ticket there.
I want to switch to the use of the road. I raised a question of Jolly have others.
No, this is small, but
okay.
I know that the government of Taiwan, they would have made a donation of body cam, I believe, to the police. Is that correct?
No, I have not.
I thought I heard that at some point you were supposed to get a gift of an unlimited amount as trial first, and so on. So I just wondering whether or not any was made available to the traffic branch.
No, I have not. Have no information on that.
Would that be useful, and is there any other camera device that the traffic police can use to help to record or to?
I believe if the decision is made to have police officers wearing body cam, it will go a long way. It will be tremendous, because most of the times you approach a motorist in the calmest of way, and they escalate the situation because of what they know or who they know they can go to. And without any...
You said the meaning the
yes.
person who was committed, yeah?
Yeah.
Same person of interest kind of thing?
Person, yes.
Oh, I see.
Because, sometimes it's your word against their word when you come down to the final analysis. But if you have a body cam and it is recording, and then if there are legislation in place or if there are force orders in place to say that you cannot turn off your body cam while you're on active duty, and that's the spur of the moment your body cam is turned off, well, I believe the authorities can deal with you internally in respect of that. But when you have your body cam on and it is being doing recordings and so on, it gives you and the third party clarity on what really transpired.
All right, so I want to switch to the use of the road, and I'm mindful of the time because people have started to call it already. So the use of the road, and I gave the example earlier, my own experience and other people's experience, where you have these huge trailer trucks with massive, bags and slings of cement passing you, and that kind of thing, without any escort. I think, from what I hear and from my own experience, pose a lot of danger to other road users, other motorists. What is the rule? What is the law on that?
I could remember when I just joined the organization in 1990, when Mr. Fiari and Mr. Eustace, they used to have a pilot to allot motorists that a long vehicle is approaching. that have since gone out the window because there isn't any legislation to complement that.
You mean there's no law to say
That they have to have a pilot.
Oh,
They were doing it out of courtesy,
oh, I see.
out of caution. They were doing it out of caution. And I in a discussion last year, I was present with the persons on the transport board, and this said issue came up for discussion in terms of these long vehicles or trailers having a pilot and looking to implement specific time when they should be on the road and not in peak hours and so on and so forth. Those matters were discussed, and they are still being discussed.
But do you find it a challenge for the police to have these vehicles, long vehicles, without pilot?
It is.
On a particular time? And has the police made any representation to the authority?
We have, the police is part of the transport board, but we have had meetings with the owners and drivers of these trailers before. We're in the process of summoning these owners again into another meeting because we are getting numerous complaints, and we cannot wait until there's a serious accident with one of these trucks to say we're going to handcuff the situation. We are doing it. We are being proactive. We are having meetings with them, and a meeting is scheduled for very soon that we are going to have another meeting with them, because the complaint from the general public is overwhelmed. And these guys, they drive the truck as if it's a car, and they wait until they're in the corner to blow their horn to say that they're approaching. It is ridiculous. I am telling you.
I know. I have had a few mishits, so I'm speaking from personal experience as well.
It's ridiculous.
Yes. In terms of the alignment of our roads, what can you say about that? I mean, does it? Well, I'm sure it does pose a challenge as well in terms of how you manage the traffic, and even for motorists, the way do you get a sense that motorists respect the limitation of the roads and they overtake in the right spots and that kind of thing? And
Cecil, I want to answer the question fairly. We have come a long way in terms of road reconstruction and building. We have come a long way, and I am seeing that the I am sorry to inject parts of politics into this statement, but
you don't have to. You don't feel comfortable. Just say the fact.
I am comfortable.
Okay,
but I have to give that before I give you I really deliver my what my verdict on it is that we have come a long way, and I have seen the improvement in some roadway, but motorists are just careless. You have the areas in St. Vincent and Grenadines where motorists know that a crowd might be, or there are commuters waiting to be transported to their varying destination. And these are the areas where you will find a motorist wants to display some level of carelessness or dangerous being displayed on our roads. Sometimes you have these acts being displayed in areas where they know it is dangerous, but they just take the chance. So we are calling on citizens to be more responsible. You have to be more responsible. You have to look at your life and the other person's life, and to be more responsible.
Is there any way of detecting those kinds of behaviors that can be that you can prosecute drivers?
Yes.
Or is there a way?
Cecil, you would be amazed that most of the time when these acts are committed, they're posted on social media. So we go right to the social media. We get the date and time when these acts are being committed, and we see the registration numbers of the vehicles that are involved. We investigate, and we take them to court.
Against the background of the general point with jewelry is at the very beginning, the question of order in the society. Mr. Taylor, in his presentation, made a point, and it was played, that we're living in an international space. St. Vincent is now in an international space. And as we move forward next 2 years and so on, it will be heightened. Against those 2 points, what can be done, or what is being done to prevent what I think Mr. Taylor was referring to as, God forbid, we have an accident with somebody's making so much money that they can sue and all of that. What is being done to avoid such situations?
From where I stay, we are the members of the Royal St. Vincent and Grenadines Police Force, the Commissioner of Police. We are forthright in the way we conduct our business. We act according to law. The Commissioner of Police have the responsibility of making the figures are making known to the powers that be. If there's a need to be for an improvement in or addition to the numbers that we have in order for proper law enforcement and so on and so forth, and I believe he would have done that on several occasions. And at presently, we have over 100 recruits being trained to be part of the whole process of law enforcement. And we continue. It's an ongoing thing that we do, Mr. Ryan. We continue to educate and inform the general public, and to partner. We have a partnership. We cannot do it alone. Law enforcement cannot do it alone. We have to partner with the general public in order to get our desired result.
Again, I just wanted to raise a specific thing, SP, because I have experience. I've seen in situations where even some vehicles with G in the license plate, the drivers seem to, they're part of the general population, yes, but I would have thought that they would take particular care. But some of them are some of the biggest culprits. I'm not saying the police, I'm saying G vehicles generally across government departments. How do you respond to that?
That complaint has reached us, and we have reached out to the PS of several departments. I could remember at one time there was a particular driver who would have gone and put on additional stuff to the government vehicle, and we would have reached out to the PS of that department and asked them to have these additional apparatus and so on being removed from the government vehicle.
And following up from that, because several of the so-called G vehicles are like pickups. They have quite a few government vehicles that are pickups. What does the law say about carrying passengers on the back of vehicles, of pickup vehicles in particular, or trucks, and especially where you have situations where these passengers are sitting, not in the bed of the pickup itself, but on the rail, and in some instances, even with having a foot hanging over the back of the pan and so forth. What is the law governing that? What does it say?
The law clearly speak that they should not be on the back of the vehicle, except with written permission from the licensing authority,
And in this case, it would be the Commissioner of Police.
Commissioner of Police.
Okay.
So,
So
if-
in cases where, for example, I have seen some of those vehicles owned or driven by police carrying other officers to different points of, that's where Commissioner would have given permission for that.
yes,
Generally,
yes,
generally.
But even so, that is if they're sitting down flat on the pan or the bed of the vehicle. What about those who are actually sitting on the rail itself? Because I doubt whether the Commissioner of Police would give permission to sit up on the rail of a pickup, because they could easily.
That is a different proposition. That is a different proposition. But I know of presently where the Commissioner of Police is trying to get some seating accommodation on the back of the pickups for the police, so that the officers who are being carried can be properly seated, and cover also for the pickup. I know that is that is being sorted now.
The area of parking in Kingston and outside, are you concerned that that is an area of problem as well, a challenge?
I believe every citizen who drive or comes to Kingston, capital city Kingston, and I want to commend, not straying from answering the question, I want to commend the few business owners who are decentralizing. I have seen now where a lot of businesses are decentralizing. They are setting up out of capital city Kingston to detract the attention from town, and that is commendable. The same service that is being offered in Kingston is being offered elsewhere now, in Arnorsville, in Diamond, and so forth, in Pembroke and these areas. And it wouldn't be too long before we have, and I realize that you said earlier on, we have hotels and so on coming on stream, and in the next 2 years.
I know.
So while you have these business owners building outside of capital city Kingston, it will lessen the amount of traffic that will enter Kingston. But it is a concern for us. We are seeing a growing.
But SP, let me just pose a scenario where we have more hotels, certainly on the western side, the leeward side. You have more airlines coming in. You have the passengers being transported, and in particular the taxi operators. They have to pass through Kingston, and if the traffic is not smooth passing through Kingston, that's delay. And not only passing through Kingston, but along the other parts of the journey to the western leeward coast.
Mr.
There are
Ryan,
problems. How do we deal with that?
I stay tuned to radios and television when the powers that be, they deliver whatever speech or speeches, and I believe I would have heard them saying that they are looking at alternative routes to channel or to have alternative routes being placed in these areas, so as to if you have a major incident, you have roads that where you can divert the traffic. And
But I ain't talking about 5 hours. So I talk about in the meantime, intermediate. We're talking about, say, December.
Well, Cecil, we are growing. We are growing in stature, and I believe with growth that will come, but it cannot come instantly.
But actually, I'm serious now. I mean, like, I drive the leeward coast sometimes and the windward coast, and I see vehicles are parked in areas where they are not to park, and it limits the free flow of traffic. And the scenario I gave a while ago where you're driving from the AIA to any of these places, you're trying to catch a flight or to take passengers to their destination, it's a problem. Can the police do anything in the meantime in terms of regulating that kind of parking?
Yes, we can, and we are actually in the process of carrying out some checks in different areas where we believe, or we are seeing where owners of property believe that the portion of road in front of their property belongs to them.
I was coming to that, especially in Kingston.
Owners of property throughout St. Vincent and the Grenadines, believe to themselves that the public path is belonging to them. That portion of road in front of their property is that you could walk with caution, but you cannot stop up a vehicle or so on, even they want to drop off something in front of their property.
So that's wrong. That's what I'm saying. It's against the law, is it?
They doesn't have that right to prevent any legitimate business or person to walk up, drive in that area. But what I am saying, I'm appealing to the owners of property, and I believe there will a time will come when physical planning will ask the draftsmen or the owners of property who are submitting plans, if you have intention, if you have motor vehicle, where you're going to park them.
But the existing situation is that
the existing situation is
how do you deal with the existing situation? In other words, let me be more specific. In and around Kingston, and in Kingston in particular, I noticed that owners of property have marked out in front of their property. They claim that space to be theirs, their right to park. And when they challenge, I have challenged some on occasions, they say, oh, the police mark it and they have permission. Is that correct?
Not all of it is correct, but some aspect of it is correct. Now, when you operate a business in Kingston and you're expecting to offload, or the customer is expected to come to your business to unload or offload goods and so on and so forth, you're providing a service. If you allow all the areas in Kingston to be parking lots, then when your delivery truck come to your establishment, or your customer come to your establishment to deliver or to collect, they will have to stop in the road. Now, the businesses will apply to the Commissioner of Police for an area to be marked out to facilitate the unload and offloading of our goods and so on. And we often call it the loading bay. Now, businesses see it fit to park their personal vehicle in that space. That is a no-no. It is an area designated for the business trucks and the customer who are doing business with you to have access to an area where they can comfortably offload and unload their goods to their vehicle. It is not for the business owners to park their vehicles, their personal vehicles. Mm-hmm. I have seen where businesses have put metal horse, they have put do not block cones, here. They have put all sort of, and I could remember sometime last year we started going around town when we had a pickup to remove these items because it is an offense. It is an offense.
Can they be charged?
They can, and in some cases they are charged.
Okay.
You can't prevent people in exercises of their common rights to deter them or deprive them of that privilege of coming to on the government road to do business or to you're causing an obstruction.
What about regular persons who see a space that is marked and still park there for the rest of the day?
That is also against the law. It is a problem. It's an offense. They should not be doing that.
Even if there isn't any marking saying police notice.
No, what happened is that the loading bay does not mark police notice.
Right, yes.
It's an area designated that is
okay, only for loading.
For loading and offloading.
Offloading. Okay.
Now there are areas in Kingston that have designated parking.
Mm-hmm.
You will have perhaps a parking for the PS of a particular ministry. There's a senior civil servant. And then sometimes you will still have persons going into that designated area. Although it mark PS International Development, I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm.
And you will still have persons going into that the PS of International Development park space. And no, I mean you cannot provide a parking for every employee, and there are some employee that you provide a parking for, it should be respected.
Mm-hmm. And I see the time going, and we have to open for calls. I want to ask you about Carnival coming up. There are challenges and so on. What are special arrangement? Are there special arrangement that you're making to accommodate the Carnival? During the Carnival season?
Well, we have an arrangement that has been in place for years, and it has been working, where the diversion of traffic during the Monday and Tuesday. Other than that, there are some times where we observe the traffic in Middle Street, the pedestrian traffic in Middle Street is tremendous, and we just close off the areas from vehicular traffic.
As you mentioned on that subject, I recall when in the early days, when we were involved with Carnival, I was involved with Carnival, and we used to use what we call the grammar school pastures as a place to park and so forth. And it worked very well. But now with so much traffic, so much vehicles in St. Vincent, and persons who want to in no time at all, the grammar school pastures is virtually full. I'm just wondering whether or not there maybe an enterprising individual can arrange for a shuttle service, say from Anna's Vale into Kingston on the Carnival Monday and Tuesday, and drop out the persons there with a ticket system or whatever the case may be, because it's a challenge, right? I believe there will be a challenge to find parking in Kingston on those the Carnival Monday and Tuesday. I don't know if you have any comment on that.
It's a very good suggestion for that sort of system to be used, but I believe it's a discussion that can and should be held with like the promoters of Carnival, the Ministry of Culture, and the police. I believe that is a timely discussion that can be had for us to see means and ways in which we can accommodate our guests or visitors that are coming in on our locals.
Okay, I have one last question, Cecil, before you open the lines.
No, I have one too, but go ahead.
Oh no, from me, yeah.
Go ahead.
Has to do with the tinting of vehicles and the number of rental vehicles in St. Vincent now. It seemed to me you mentioned earlier on about us having 35,000 registered licensed vehicles, but I feel as if sometimes that we now have 36,000 rental vehicles, because everywhere they
all in Kingston at the same time.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Okay.
and they all and so on. I'm just wondering whether or not what are the rules governing rental vehicles as opposed to a private vehicle? Is it the same? And if not, what is the rule generally now in terms of tinting of the vehicles and the license plates?
No, the rule in terms of renting a vehicle is it have to be in R, that is for public.
Yes.
Right. It is different to a private vehicle. You are not to rent a private vehicle.
Yeah, but I'm thinking in terms of in terms of the tint.
The tint. Okay.
Is there any distinction seen that it is for like?
No, there isn't anything in law that will prevent anyone from tinting their vehicle. I believe sometime last year, an issue arose, and there was a piece of draft legislation circling around as to tinting of motor vehicles here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I am not sure of the status of that document, but I believe it is still in the draft stage, and sooner rather than later it will come into being, because I would have heard all the sentiments echoed on the prohibition of persons of tinting vehicles and so on and so forth, what it can encourage and so on and so forth. And as one person said, you're tinting from the sun, but the sun has been shining from ever since. So how could you tint against the sun? But I don't know. But that piece of legislation is circling around. It is in the draft stage, where it was sent out for comments. So the Attorney General's chambers should be in a better position to speak on that. But I know it was circulated, a draft.
Yeah, okay. I'm just wanting to add, ASP Brown, that it also affects persons like myself, maybe Cecil and Pigeon as well, who are obliged sometimes to drive in the night. That when persons who tint their vehicle to the windscreen as well, they have problems seeing and driving in the night. So therefore, they put their light on high beam, and this just shines straight into the eyes of the oncoming traffic, and it creates a problem sometimes. So persons like myself say, well, it's difficult for us to even to be on the road at night. I don't know if there's any comment you would want to make in relation to that.
It's a Providence. I am glad that this is coming from a member of the public and not a law enforcement officer. Because oftentimes when we would have mentioned these things, people are saying that we're trying to justify why we want to target people and so on and so forth. But it is not targeting or justifying. It is a general cry. And people know. I want to ask the persons who are deliberately tinting the whole windscreen of their vehicle, and they have to now put in some lights that will make the roadway little reasonable for them to drive, if they are taking into consideration the other person who is oncoming, who have not had their windscreen tinted. And in the same vein, I want to ask them to the dark shades that they wear in the day, to lessen the light, the sunlight from their eyes. I want them to wear it in the night while they are driving their heavily tinted vehicle. And I want them to. I want them to have the experience.
Okay.
Somebody will say that I am trying to instigate things that will bring danger to other people's life, but that is the sort of danger they are putting themselves and other persons in when they tint their full windscreen, and they now have to elevate to brighter lights.
So two things, ASB. You're saying, one, they themselves will not be able to see properly.
They cannot.
And secondly, the driver of the oncoming vehicle would not be able to see well as usual.
They would not be able to see well either.
So that both vehicles both drivers or both vehicles are
at risk.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we want to go to the line, but before we do, there's some things, some WhatsApp messages. This person saying, morning, we as motorists would like to see the solid line in the middle of the road maintained to give guidance. Any response?
Yeah, we're trying. That is something that we're trying to do, and I would have had have conversation with the commissioner and the minister. Well, the minister would have had conversation with me all the time. We have to try to maintain the center line throughout, and in fact, it gives motorists a sense of knowing, of belonging. or this is the center line and this part of the road is where it's supposed to be. It acts as a form of guidance. And the person who would have text that is not wrong. It gives them a sense of belonging.
This person is saying, good afternoon. In rural areas, I notice vehicles will park in front of a person's gate so that you can't get into your gate with your groceries, or when returning from the doctor, at least they can just park leaving out the gate.
Leave the gate clear.
I think that's what the person means.
We speak to that already, where we think that because you're you have a vehicle that you can park a vehicle on a public road, and I am waiting for that piece of legislation where persons who park on a public road for a particular period of time will be can be penalized.
Okay, which is the point we raised earlier on.
Yeah,
yes,
this is the point that we raised earlier on.
Okay, all right. This person sent this message along that personal experience, saying that okay, let me read it. They need to do something about them vans, me and the noise. I have one name loud from Belair. I ride that van and I got headache for 3 days. And this kind of music is all about sex position.
What that person can do is when they have the experience recording music and so on and so forth and report it to the traffic department, we will take action.
All right. We go to the lines now and take some calls. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program.
Hello, good afternoon, Mr. Ryan.
Good afternoon to you.
Yeah, very good program.
Thank you.
Yes, I have a... Hello?
Yes, go ahead. Ask your question or make your comment.
Yes, I have a concern, Mr. Ryan. I'm calling from Vermont Valley.
Oh, the voice sounds familiar. I think I know who it is. Yes, share your concern. Yes.
Yes, on the main road from Marty gas station coming towards Vermont, towards the casino area. There's a construction company virtually working on the road. They have loads of sand, stones, and in the day they're actually working on the road. And not only that, cement bags. Up to this morning, I passed cement bags from maybe Friday, whenever last they work. It's still there, and some of them stuff is going into the river. I think that, very unfair to motorists. I remember a couple years ago, after the flood in 2013, they built a retaining wall around that same area. And the company that did that wall, either they rent or leased a piece of land from the owners next door and operated it. But this is a construction company, I'm not sure who it belongs to, is operating right in the road. And higher up, if you travel a bit higher up, closer to where the casino is, stuff from construction waste has been sometimes dumped right along the roadside. And that is a thing that shouldn't be happening.
All right, so SP, that's for your attention?
Yes, we'll certainly look into that. And it was never brought to the attention of the traffic department. And we manage our roadway. Caller, thanks very much for that sort of bit of information.
All right, brother. So thanks for calling. Have a good day.
Okay, then. Thanks.
Good. While we wait on the other call, somebody's asking SP whether or not there's a towing service in place. Do you have a towing service, like a towaway?
No, we doesn't have a towing service in place. We doesn't have a towing service. We have space for storage.
Okay. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you.
Good program to the panelists. This is a program I'm looking forward for years, and I know the police have a lot on the hand. There's one announcer used to say, when things get still, it's time for a shake. And my prime minister say, time for we to get the small things right. I just met the road and I was driving because from a little boy I grew up on them boys from Children and their boys Gibson. And they launched their property and the road ticket signal and everything for everybody, whether the port in front and the ports behind. One of the things that I made me as a senior citizen, these trailer trucks. About 2 years ago I went travel a bit and see how these trailer trucks and they have roads. And I was asking my friends, how come them trailer trucks are speeding? They have certain limits they have to drive, and they have roads, like places in Florida, some parts in New York City. They have, and our trailer trucks, I think it was a matter of every good kill because they just speed so much on the road. I don't be seeing them every day and how they operate. Like they are allowed by themselves with these trailer trucks.
So what would be your suggestion to what's your suggestion to deal with them, to the SB Brown?
I figure SB Brown, they could limit them in terms of the speed rate, the speed they just be going. Blow when they go around corners because we now have flat road I could see them from a distance. Sometimes they don't blow. And the way they operate like it's them alone on the road. And our road is small.
All right, so we know all of that. So let's focus on the solutions, suggestions.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The solution that we could make is, for instance, let the judge at a certain pace because I think they're speeding too much.
All right.
That's one of the solutions.
Okay.
And another thing I'm going to have problem with is in minibus, with those loud music and the way they operate and speeding on the road. That's when something taking place sometimes. And they don't get the signal. These young fellas who just get like say yesterday.
And again, your suggestion. Right. So we've been discussing all of that this morning. What's your suggestion to deal with that going forward?
Well, I think the officers have solution and they can get it right. So when they put in things in place, let it work towards them and get them right.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for calling. Okay, sure. Thanks for calling. Yes. Did I ask about the towing? Yeah, I think I did, and because somebody questioned it. Well, good afternoon. Welcome to the program. Good afternoon. Hello. Good afternoon. Greetings.
Yes, good morning. Good morning, gentlemen. Joel P. John, Cecil. This is Chris.
Good morning, Chris.
Officer ASP Brown, good morning.
Good
Good.
Good afternoon to you.
Yeah, good afternoon, really. Yes, that's right. Now, I listened to a snippet of what Fidel Taylor said, about the increase of traffic based on AIA and people. One of my issues is the signage problem. Now, our do not enter sign are below the international designation, below that their design size. We have very small do not enter sign or stop signs. Why is that so?
The size of our signs, he's saying, is below.
Yes, the size
smaller.
of our road signs
is smaller.
Below, yeah, they're way smaller.
Mm.
Our stop signs, our do not enter signs, we have, nobody knows the speed limit since they're not posted. There is one sign I saw in town, like, south of Forester's Corner, that says the speed limit for cars is 20 miles an hour in town. But you can't see it. It's painted in white. The background is white with maybe red lettering, some small lettering. Again, below what you'd see anywhere else in the world. Why is that so? No, that's a rhetorical question for you, ASP. I know why it's not so, because we don't have, the signage is not regulated. Now, which brings me to the other question.
But hold on. No. Let us get a response from ASP Brown on that one before you go on to your second one. Nobody's asking why is it that.
Well, he said he know why.
Well, it's not for him, It's thousands of people listening to us now. It's for the benefit of the thousands, really.
I believe the time will come when
when we will have legislation in place, and
All right.
So you're saying legislation is not in place now?
I am saying the time will come when we will have legislation in place and the necessary tools to measure speed limits in Kingston.
All right, because somebody asked about that, by the way. But so you're saying right now there's no legislation in place. That's what you're saying. Well, it's implied in your statement.
We judge based on experience and common sense. Speed limits.
You mean right now?
Yeah.
Right now, but that is not.
Yes.
That is not what we would call justiciable.
No.
All right. Okay. Yes, Chris, go on to the next point.
Yeah, but that is for. Remember, our speed limits are not posted anywhere in St. Louis, except that one I saw in town.
Right. So you saw this one. I might have seen the same small one as well.
Right. And in our regulations, I believe the speed limit is 30 miles an hour. In the rest of
No, it's 25. It's 25. It's 25. 15 in Kingston and 25 in the outskirts.
So it's 25. And it's
in the 25 in country, in rural areas, but it's 15 in Kingston as far as I recall. 15 to 20.
And there's a 20 mile on that thing too.
Yeah,
but anyway,
okay.
Which brings me to the other question. How well do you work with the Ministry of Transport, and do we have transportation engineers in St. Louis? Because a lot of the issues with the roads, to me, as far as I see it, the police and the traffic guys are enforcers of the law. They can't do anything else but that. And you just talk about maintaining the striping in the roadway.
The yellow line,
double
all
yellow,
of them.
And so on. That should not be the police. The police are enforcers. The Ministry of Transport is responsible for the road striping, road markings, and the signage throughout St. Louis and the Grenadines. And I'm asking, how well do you guys work together? Because when I watched that Annisville by the tarmac and by the E.T. Joshua Center, and that traffic fiasco there, that calls for a traffic study and a design, you could see everybody's blaming the police. They try to do, and they try to improvise and ease this, but it calls for design. How well do you work with the transportation engineers in the Ministry of Transport?
Yes, Peter.
Well, the engineers are part of the transport board. The chief engineer, is a member of the transport board, and is at that level. Things have been discussed and things are put in place in conjunction to what occurs on the road.
Well, I don't know, but anyway, we come back to I'm just highlighting some issues where I think it's not your problem. I really don't think so. You're an enforcer, but I'm going to highlight another issue here with the drinking and driving. Now, and you get convictions from it, but we don't do we do any testing in terms of we have breathalyzers? Do we do that field sobriety test on drivers? And so, I mean, how are we getting convictions without doing any of these things? How do we know if a man is drunk?
You don't have to be drunk. Consuming alcohol doesn't mean that you're drunk. We go with the hard evidence. That is our way of dealing with when we investigate and we get the evidence. If there is a case where we can take to court or to prosecute somebody for, we do that. If the case is weak, then we issue warning where warning can be issued.
Oh, so we don't have a limit that you could
The law clearly says you should not consume, you should not be under the influence of alcohol or drugs while driving a motor vehicle.
Yeah, and I'm asking, how do you know? You're saying based on observation. If you see a man drinking a beer, you say, okay, that's it. you're in violation of the law.
You see, caller, what I can say to that is that where the law is not clear, that did not define a clear path for the police to take, we have to let common sense prevail and do what we have to do. Because as it stands now, if you want to carry out a test on a driver, the person have to volunteer for you to carry out the test on them. There is nothing in the law to say that they have to, they are compelled as a driver to for a test to be done.
Chris, let me just ask. So is that a limitation on the action of the police?
It is.
Okay.
Because if you suspect someone of being under the influence of alcohol or drugs and you want to carry out a test in order to make a case, and the person involunteer to the doctor to be tested, you can't test them. It is illegal, and we are not an organization with act outside of the law. We are a law enforcement agency. So where there isn't that definite where there isn't clarity, we have to allow common sense to prevail and do.
But allow common sense to prevail. Can that hold up in court? I think that's what the call is asking.
Well, sometimes what is common law? Common law is a practice that has been carried on over a period of time in society, and sometimes common law is accepted. The way how you give your evidence in court, the judges do accept aspect of that.
Chris?
Yeah, but remember, I'm coming from what Fidel Taylor said on that snippet about, you have all these people coming into Simmons, they rent cars and so and these other things, and they become road users.
And what by the way, Chris, I was going to add to that, and what Joel said at the very beginning, the question of orderly living.
Right. But remember, these people take an international license test that are pretty much, I think, the same international license. The regulation is pretty much the same. It's all over the world. So when they come, they expect a certain standard here. So I'm asking, is if a driver with an international license comes into Simmons, and he, based on what his knowledge is of laws in countries, he is now at a disadvantage because Simmons is unique in that it has its own set of common laws that ASP Brown just mentioned there, that nobody really knows of. So he automatically jumps into a car and he's probably in violation already. Without, and ASP Brown says it right, without clarity. So again, we need clarity. And a lot of the problems, I believe in Simmons, having driven there for years, is because they lack of clarity. And if people don't know, man's going to offend the minute they get behind the wheels. So
and women.
And woman.
I'm just kidding.
That's my problem. And coming back to the speed limit issue, I know along the road you have schools, and that speed limit should be less in front of schools. So having one speed limit outside of town, again, ASP Brown, that is a lack of clarity. And we need clarity. And I think that's where we are.
You can't blame ASP Brown, it's the law of the country.
But I know what he's saying, and a lot of times this morning, he took time, he was deliberate, he wanted to talk, he didn't want to offend, but I understand where he is. And thanks for coming on the program, because a lot of times, a lot of people shy away from this because, you get some licks here or there, but no problem with that. I appreciate you coming on, all right? Guys, good program.
Thanks again. Thanks.
Okay, Chris.
Thanks, Chris. SB, anything you want to respond to in what he said? Because you have another calls lined up, by the way.
One thing I want to respond to is that he said when someone come in and they enter a vehicle, they probably don't start committing themselves.
Because they drunk on the plane.
But if you, see, what I disagree with is that if you're at a standard, when you leave, let's say, Canada, and come to St. Vincent. And the standard in Canada, because you have never come to St. Vincent or you came to St. Vincent already, and the standard in Canada is that as soon as you enter the vehicle, you put on your seatbelt. What is a continuous habit cannot just come out of you because of you enter in a different country.
So you were talking particularly about drinking, alcohol.
But maybe not. But even to Cecil and ASP Brown, if the driver gets now onto the main road, he picks up the vehicle at AIA. He's now onto the main road, and then he say, "Well, look, it seems all right for me to be driving at 40 miles an hour." But I think he's already breaking the law because the speed limit is 25.
Yeah.
And but he doesn't know.
We have a call here. Let me take this call. Could be PM. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program.
Yeah, good afternoon.
That was PM, but yeah. Go ahead, my friend.
Good afternoon.
Greetings. Tell us who you are. And go ahead.
Queens.
Oh, whatever that means. Go ahead, Queens. Welcome. Okay. And in the future, I'd rather you don't disguise to say private. I mean, come on, everybody's allowed to get onto the program. Go ahead.
And last Thursday, Cop chat, the guest, he says they issue international driver's license. Does it come with a blue book? A blue book with all the countries where you could drive into?
You're talking about the international driver's license?
Yes.
Yes, the Inland Revenue Department are the ones who issue international driver's license. The test has been done at the Traffic Department, but the persons who issue the license are the Inland Revenue Department, income tax.
No, that don't answer the question. I want us to come with a blue book
I
with
said
the
yes.
countries.
I said yes.
Okay. I have a blue book. I have an international driver's license. And some of the countries, I know you have nothing to do with that, but some of the countries not honoring it. I've drove in Antigua, St. Kitts, and Grenada, and they didn't honor it. I had to take out a temporary driver's license. And
your point is what? So what is your point then? That we should do the same thing here?
What they should do is no, they shouldn't do the same thing. They should allow us to drive with a New York driver's license.
But not New York, international. International, not necessarily
international
New York.
and New York driver's license, because the bigger countries, Trinidad, Guyana, Bahamas, UK, they allow you to drive with a New York driver's license. So I wish they could have done that in St. Vincent also.
If it's St. Lucia, okay.
Hold on. Clarification. Hold on.
For clarification, ASP Brown, if a St. Lucian comes to St. Vincent and he wants to get a rental vehicle and drive, what does he have to do?
His driver's license have to be just notarized at the Traffic Department. We have a register where we notarize the arrival, his particulars, and so on and so forth.
And that would be for the OECS or CARICOM countries?
Commonwealth.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
Commonwealth.
So my friend, you have to do different. You live in the USA.
And USA is not part of the Commonwealth.
Okay. And another thing I noticed in some the countries, couple of countries I mentioned, too, the car rental agency are allowed to issue temporary driver's license. Car rental agency. I know it's not that in St. Kitts and Antigua. Another thing.
No. But what are you suggesting? You can't just raise. You have to make a suggestion. Are you suggesting that we do the same thing here?
Maybe you can do that. Maybe you can let car rental agency issue temporary driver's license.
Let's have a response from ASP Brown. ASP, you want to respond to that? He's making the suggestion that
it's a good suggestion, but I don't think here we have to put legislation and things in place in order for the collection of revenue.
Okay.
That's for a different agency, a different department.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, parking. When I remember one carnival, I was coming down the area Stony Ground there, and the police direct me to park in Massey's parking lot. I know carnival is coming up. Is Massey parking lot regular way is open to the public to park on a carnival day, or when there's events at Victoria Park, or the other one at Annisvale there, when there's something at the Tarmac or Annisvale, Massey parking lot is people allowed to park there?
That has to do with Massey itself, not the police. That's a private thing. That's a private parking lot.
Yeah, well, what advice I want to give, kind of parking is sometimes parking is difficult kind of a time. The owners of those parking lots, they should open it for free to the public.
All right. I'm sure they'd be glad to have that advice from you.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Thanks for calling.
And the reason why, hello?
Go ahead.
Yeah, and the reason why I was in Atlanta last week and there was a baseball game happening and there was a KFC nearby and the KFC opened up the parking lot for pay to the public.
So what's that got to do with us?
Parking lot, anything with parking, anybody who have a parking available, they should open it up and make some money at carnival time or any other time.
You better come home and invest in one.
All right, have a good day. Bye.
You too. Oh, okay. I thought it might have been the PM calling because I had an indication that he might have called the program. But good afternoon. Welcome to the program.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you.
I'm Azara.
Azara, greetings.
Then with those pickup truck putting steel and wood behind the vehicle and they don't have a red flag. And then they get my ID out and the attitude. If I was younger, I was against the involved. Number two, that bottom gate in Tokyo, when come out, I have chosen to go over to Korea. And the driver was supposed to come out and go down the road, and he come out and swing up and nearly bounce me down and give me an attitude. And again, like I say, if I was younger, I was get involved.
Now, he bounce you as a pedestrian? He bounced you as a pedestrian? Did he bounce you as a pedestrian? That's what he's saying?
Hello?
He bounced you as a pedestrian?
He bumped me.
You were walking?
He bumped me because he didn't swing and go down. He swing out and go up the road.
Yeah, but were you walking?
And give me attitude.
Were you walking?
I put a camera up the bike correct, so I'll see all the people doing chippiness to catch it. And number three, those drivers, those conductors, especially, they're not walking, they're pleasuring because the driver has a bare in hand, the conductor have a bare in hand, and they come on a share bag and drop on the button in front of you, all kind of thing. So these are the pull-up and things. Thanks very much.
All right, thanks for those observations. ASP, you want to respond to any of them? SP, you want to respond to any of those? Is it, if it's not...
What was the regulation in relation to your trucks carrying steel and lumber and other things that is beyond the bed of the truck and they don't have
They cannot project. They cannot carry material that project more than 6 feet.
Beyond
the...
You mean they cannot carry period, or they have to use a flag or a red flag or something?
Well, they will use an indicator, but the goods or the what they are carrying on the vehicle cannot project.
Oh, I see. Period. They can't project anything longer than that.
Yeah, longer than that.
Against the law.
Yeah, it's against the law.
Okay. And at the same time, earlier on that, the question of trucks transporting materials uncovered and drop stuff all over the road.
Almost every day on the traffic talk program, we remind persons to have their goods securely covered. And
all right, so we have a few more calls to take this one. Afternoon, welcome to the program.
Yeah, greetings, Brother Ryan and Joel and Pijan and your guest, Mr. Brown. Yes, yeah. I don't know what's the title.
SP Brown, Assistant Superintendent of Police.
Right, ESP. Okay.
No. ASP.
ASP.
Yes.
Right. I'll get confused.
But go on because we're pressed for time. But go on.
Right, yeah. Solution. Listen to all the discussion because some of the discussion we hear keep repeating and bringing up the same thing all the time, right? But no solutions. First thing, Cecil, we haven't seen a lot of road being built in, new roads on new highways and so on, right? To get off of this high congestion, especially during the peak hours, whether in morning or evening. There was one time I heard, listening, I think was Parliament or some other discussion that the government looking into the importation of vehicles, certain amount coming every month, and there will be a quota, and eventually you will put a halt on the importation of new vehicles and so forth, right? Or used vehicle, whatever the case may be. And then you take a breathing season, and then you bring it forward again, and so you can import.
Remember, we don't have an abundance of time, and I expect to hear from the PM. So I just giving a
just
caution.
like you have sometimes depletion of animal stocks, and you say, okay, let's hold on that for a while and so on, right? So I'm looking at that. I love to hear PM calling if he give a discussion that, because if we continue bringing in vehicle like that, what will happen in our 10 or 15 years span if we don't stop from importation for a while and take a break and so on, right? So that's one. The fact remain about the public, right, about the use of phones. Since I want to know, we have videos that we can bring into case matters, or you send people a ticket, have a video with them and so forth, and challenge them in the court. Now I'm asking, if we can have a system where public people can take pictures with people on the phone while they're driving and send it to the police. That's just an idea I have. And they can be penalized for it, or brought to court or whatever. Because
so let's have ASP respond. Can people from the public take photos of?
Well, it is not illegal for persons to take whether videos and photos of any illegal actions on the road in order to aid in the police in maintaining law and order. We have done it before. Persons who have sent videos and so on to us, and we have investigated the legitimacy of these videos, and would have brought charges where charges can be brought against persons. And we're just encouraging the general public to get involved in law enforcement. And this is one.
Yeah.
If this is your field where you can contribute, go right ahead.
Yeah, I thank for that a lot. Yeah, and I hoping that more people may involved, because sometimes since I stand on my rail and look over, I see people drive. I see a guy the other on his phone and a vehicle coming down, and he almost hit the man.
But Bongo Shaka, we they just been advised what you can do. So let's move on to the next question.
Okay, with the PR Brown, with the music in the van, I think that it's sometimes to curtail crime, you put people undercover. You see, you have a lot of reports on some particular vans that do speed drive ignorantly, play loud music, the driver drinking beer, the conductor drinking beer and so forth, like in a party scene. Have undercover cops or people will volunteer the service where they have a right and a permission to give ticket. They have a book with them, and they can just sit there in a regular passenger and
all right. I think he got the message. SP, any response to that? For police to act as undercover in vans and so on.
It's a good suggestion. Bungo Shak is a good suggestion. We'll definitely look at it.
I will volunteer if you have
No. Everyone would recognize you, so no, you can't volunteer.
No, you wouldn't even know I walk around because you think I just riding from Tongue to Villa or Summer Prospect, but you ain't like scoping you, and so on. But I know exactly how to do it. Brother Brown, I'll come and talk to you and give you some
Thank you very much, brother.
Okay, Bronco Saka, we have a lot of calls. No, we have a lot of calls lined up. And
the last thing quickly for time, which is important. You see the Middle Street section of our city, like down lower Middle Street, from by Gonsalve coming up there, where a lot of business places there. We need to start to look into it. I think there should be no parking in that area per se, unless you collecting or delivering stuff. There are big truck park there. I know he take out to unload, and all the vehicle to back up, and it happens various time over and over. Something got to be done with those areas and those business places, especially when high peak period traffic here, the backup and so on.
All right then, thanks.
So let me end here. I have you jot down on my notes, but as you say, I love hearing come in, especially talk with
okay, thank you.
People coming in.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Cecil. And Brother Brown, I'll see and give you some ideas.
Okay, brother.
Okay. The calls are lining up. I'm sorry, and so in the meantime, let me just read a question that somebody sent. Good afternoon. Question: should a policeman take or ask a driver of a vehicle who may have committed minor offenses to get out of the vehicle for the officer to drive to the barracks? Taking into consideration that the names on the insurance, you have not given permission to give that person your vehicle to drive. Who is responsible in event of an accident? Basically, you got the question? The policeman asks the driver of the vehicle to come out, and the policeman or policewoman drives the vehicle to the barracks. So he's asking, in the event, well, first of all, the name of the officer is not on the insurance, and therefore, in the event of an accident, who is responsible?
Is it a private vehicle or a public service vehicle?
Well, I believe it's a private vehicle, the person saying.
I don't know that the insurance company requests the names of persons who would drive a private vehicle or rented vehicle. I know.
But first of all, is it correct for the police to enter the vehicle and drive
I don't know the circumstances under which the person would have asked the question, but and if the person just committed a minor breach, I don't think the police will allow ask them to exit the vehicle to take.
But that's what he's saying, minor offense.
No, we have to be we have to be more specific with.
Well, that's what he's saying.
Minor offenses.
I don't know exactly.
Because somebody will say, not giving your name and address is a minor offense, but the last failing to give the police your name and address when requested to do so by a police officer in uniform is an arrestable offense.
But he didn't say the police arrest. He said the person drove the vehicle.
Yeah, but
the officer, sorry.
Without you being arrested, I don't think the police have rights to tell you come out of your vehicle and drive your vehicle.
That's what he's saying. That's the question.
Based on the question that he asked, if you are not being arrested, the police can't tell you come out of your vehicle. Are not supposed to tell you to come out of your vehicle and I'm going to your vehicle.
Let me just read what he said again. He said, should a policeman take or ask a driver of a vehicle who may have committed minor offenses to get out of the vehicle for the officer to drive to the barracks? In other words, the officer driving the vehicle to the barracks. That's the question he's asking.
Well, seeing that they have not specified the offenses, the officer can ask you based on that it have not provided enough information for me to adequately answer the question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, there's another question here, a suggestion, I guess. Why can't they, meaning I don't know who is responsible, open the gates by Sunrise Supermarket and let the traffic go over? I think there's a part before. Let me read it. Oh yes, let me just read this.
On the gate opposite.
No. Can you please ask him, meaning the SBU, about these bright lights that people are taking as bulbs and putting in their 100 watts bulbs? Cars with these bulbs has special headlamps for focus on the ground. You understand what he's asking? Do you?
There's a reason for that.
Okay.
If they're replacing the bulbs that the vehicle came with. Is the same point that Mr. Providence alluded to earlier on. They are tinting the whole vehicle windscreen, and in order to see to have some level of sight in the night, they have to replace them with these
brighter bulbs,
LED bulbs.
So is that legal? That's what he's.
No, it is not. It is not legal.
And then he's asking also, why can't they open the gate at Sunrise Supermarket and let the traffic go over the runway instead of going down to the top road and coming back by the exit they now have, causing accident down? I don't quite follow what he's asking. Let me read again. Why can't they open the gate at Sunrise Supermarket and let the traffic go over the tarmac? You understanding that?
I know what, yeah.
Yeah.
I know what they're saying, but
Okay.
you know, Mr. Ryan, sometimes you cannot have your way at all times. And while you might not see it, you want to see it as a way for you. With the persons who are involved with the law enforcement agencies and the persons who look out for your safety on the road. There are some things that we cannot allow to happen. That piece of road in Annosville, in the area of Sunrise Supermarket, is a very complex piece of piece of road. You have a center lane going into Sunrise.
Kingston?
No, going to Sunrise.
Oh, you mean this? Okay.
Yes. You have another lane which lead to a bus layoff. You have the center lane that comes down from Kingston, Castle Hill, and you have the southern lane that leads to Kingston. Now, to have another complication inside it, we are not if we have to make that possible without any clear study or the input of the engineers, we will be putting a lot of citizens at risk. And we're not an agency or organization that wants to do that.
Is there a study being done? A traffic study?
There's a traffic study being done. And with the development
for that same area.
Yes. There's a study that is presently ongoing. It has to do with the development of the Annesville area, and I was part of a meeting or a group where there are certain things that the government want to put in place, but you cannot go now and do development there in terms of the roadway when the entire area is not being the entire design for the area is not complete.
Okay. A few messages, WhatsApp messages while we wait on other calls. It wasn't saying very important, the center line, not only a driver, but shows where the road winds and curves, especially important on the main road in rural areas when driving in the rain or at night. Well, you made that point already. Yes, the police do not have the manpower to post officers everywhere. Well, I'm not sure if that person knows about the police situation. So we take this call. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program. Good afternoon.
Hello.
You cannot hear us because you have you're close to your.
Hello.
Yes, we're hearing you now.
Good afternoon to the panel.
Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Brown.
Good afternoon, sir.
I want to commend you on that program that you did it today. You are well, and I want you to keep going on that trend. Now, in relation to the earlier you said that we have less police to really cover the traffic, but I was wondering if there's not you get two vehicles, two cars at least, rental cars, one for the windward and one for the leeward, and police officers in them so that they could at certain point so that they could catch these vans when they're really playing this music, loud and so on. I was wondering if that's impossible.
It is not impossible. It's a good suggestion. And I am very glad that we're having the community, the cooperative community involved in law enforcement. This is the way that we want our society to go, where the members of the public can feel free to call in and make suggestions to the police, and the police look into their concerns and make things right. So it is very important. It is not impossible. It is a good suggestion, and we sure look into that.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir.
Thanks for calling.
I'm going, and as I said already, you did a very good job.
Yeah, he's doing a master job. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yes. So let me finish reading the rest of this person's WhatsApp message. Which says, "How about procuring mobile traffic camera units that can be deployed as needed, such as in the areas at the old airport tarmac mentioned earlier?" That was a question for you. Mobile camera units.
We're really discussing an advanced state of law enforcement.
Well, we're looking at the future. Eh? We're looking at the future prospect. Remember, we said that
we're in an era where that is part of the administrative output. Yeah.
Well, that's your response. That's one for the future.
It's one for the future.
Okay.
We're really thinking advance, Mr. Ryan.
Yeah. Well, that's what people say.
Yeah.
It says, "Good afternoon, Mr. Ryan and panel. I have a suggestion about trailer trucks and big trucks, say over 8 tons. Would it be possible to link them? To do a lot of their transportation limit. Sorry, that should be limit. Do a lot of their transportation outside the peak hours, such as 7 to 9 a.m. in the morning and 4 to 6 p.m. on the evening weekdays." In other words, in those.
I understand the question of the person who have asked. That is discussion was held and is ongoing with the transport board in respect of that aspect of transportation with the trailer trucks.
Okay. And the person is also saying rear cameras would help, as well, placed around St. Vincent to help with speeding and not enough manpower to track everyone. I guess in a case where you have that. Yes, so he's making a suggestion. And then the person is also saying walk bridges in the Honorsville area would be required as well, given how Honorsville is developing with new hospital and businesses. Pedestrian traffic should not be limited to the conventional zebra crossing. That slows down traffic. Walk bridges with ramps and wheelchairs, as well as needed to allow flow of traffic into and out of Kingston. That's one for the future too. Eh?
Yes, Cecil, I mean, the person is thinking futuristic.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe with the Honorsville development coming on stream.
Yeah.
I believe we might see some walkovers, some overhead walkovers.
All right.
I believe so.
We have a call. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program. Good afternoon. Hello.
Good afternoon, the panelists. Very good program.
Thank you.
Greetings.
Yeah, man, good program. But do we really consider, we know about the noise, right? The loud noise. But do anyone of you really consider the noise taking place at the Victoria Park and the hospital right next to it? Sometimes the music go until 1, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. And it's a very, very loud noise playing around it. So I think we should look into all that too.
All right.
Man, trust me, but it's a very nice program.
Thank you very much. ASP, Carnival period noise.
It does not fall under the realms of traffic. We're dealing with traffic, strictly traffic.
Fair enough. Joe, do you want to comment on that? I don't know if you want to.
No comment, but I think ASP Brown spoke earlier on about the loud music is not only applicable to public service vehicles, but also to private vehicles. And while on that same subject, there are residences in certain areas where they play loud music and disturb the neighborhood.
So in the Honorsville area.
And I know also in Fair Hall and Glen and so forth as well.
All right. Well, I'm not seeing any more calls, and I think I've read all. No, there's one earlier WhatsApp that I need to go back to. Yeah, I was expecting that we might have heard from the PM, but I seems not today. So we would. Okay. Somebody's saying, that's not the one. We have another call here now. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. A very good program. Calling from Toronto. Now, good afternoon to everyone.
Afternoon.
And especially
Greetings.
to the officer there who's doing a wonderful job. Listen, for years now, I've had a problem with the fact that when I'm driving in St. Vincent, there are no lines in the road, in the middle of the road, when you leave Annisville and so on. There are no lines in the middle of the road.
There are lines, but they need to be renewed. But there are lines.
As a young man, and I do wear glasses, and as a young man years ago, there used to be lines, and you used to see if I remember correctly, used to be putting those markers in the road, assisted by painters and so on. So that must have some implications for how cases are prosecuted, because if I were to get in an accident and there are no markings there, I don't see how I could argue that I'm on my hand, or how the other person could argue that they're on their hand. So I think it's something serious, and I think it is something simple to rectify. Just maintain the stuff, just get the paint and just do what you're supposed to do. And they have all sort of machines now. And make it easy. You could look in the middle of the night or 2 a.m. Basic stuff. And the officer made an excellent point earlier about the drivers, how we drive and so on, giving visitors the first impression of the country. And the absence of those lines and the absence of proper signs and so on also gives that impression. And these are simple things that we should take care of. Simple stuff. I don't understand it. I do not understand it. And I wonder about the conditions of the facilities for the traffic officers. Because, listen, these things irate me, because I used to go to the police station often as a little boy to see my father. Then I used to go there to hang out with my brother. Then, and so on and so forth with the police. And the place was pristine. The front door was pristine, clean, well painted. You had prisoners there, maintaining the facilities. And so we need to do something about it now. I don't know if the police workshop is still around, but we could use the prisoners to, rehabilitate some of these facilities so that our law enforcement officials could be comfortable. It is unacceptable, the kind of conditions they have to work in and live in. It's very unacceptable, and that's an extension of, we talk about the traffic and they're doing a good job and so on, but when they leave the barracks in the morning to do their work, they must have come from some comfortable office and spaces where they have the coffee machine, the fridges, the tea, and, go out and cheerfully do their job, because it's a stressful job. And they put themselves at risk. It's how some of these people drive. So I wanted to, and excuse the passion there. But I think these are simple things that we could sort out. And of course, all the other things with the cameras, all those things make sense. Speed traps and all those things, making sure that especially the passenger vans don't have amplified music. They have all sort of 10-inch and 12-inch speakers, the tint, ripping them off, take them off. Because you walk in, and I like to walk when I'm in St. Vincent, and you don't even know who is who on some of these vehicles. You don't know who is who. So I don't know how. When you have heavy tinting, the police could be assisted in terms of fighting crime. Because here in Toronto, with your window up, with your tinted window up, the police officer is supposed to be able to see your driver's license. If you know what I mean. Okay? And my final thing is that, my final thing is just a clarification. Officer Brown said that, all you need, once you come in once it's in the Commonwealth, is for your driver's license to be notarized. Well, Canada is part of the Commonwealth. And when I go to St. Vincent, I have to make sure I have a temporary driver's license. So next time around, does it mean that once I present my license to the officer at the airport, that is sufficient, that I don't have to pay the $100 or whatever it is?
But you can afford that, man. You can afford that. You can afford more than that. SB. Hold on. Let me ask for SB for a response. SB.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Ryan, you said it. If that is his contribution to his beloved country.
All right, then. Have a good day. Thanks for calling.
All right. Okay. I'll get on.
Okay. Somebody's asking a very interesting question. Perhaps this is above your pay grade, ASP, but I'll ask it. If it's time for government to consider limiting the number of vehicles per household, do you see that as part of the solution?
That's a serious question.
Yes.
That needs some serious reflection and introspection before you answer.
Okay.
So that is I'll pass on that one.
All right.
But the caller a while ago speaks on signage, proper signage. We are in discussion with various government ministries to have proper signage being placed throughout St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So that is something that is discussed. There were some site visits and so on to areas where they want to place some signs and so forth. So we're developing. We can't do everything one time, but we're doing it step by step.
All right, we have another call here. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program.
Good afternoon, everybody. Mr. Ryan, the commissioner, the president, and the officer in charge. I would like to say this. Attitude, you can't make a lot of police people attitude, And one the fundamental problem I think with people. We definitely is a lawless people, like the Canadian police tell me. We already don't have no law. People out there who have the same experience, like they must call in, man. When we go up the all and we go run across the road, they say jaywalking. When the man see me passport is 3 days, I in the country, he say, Vincent again. All they do want no law down there. Don't let me see you do that again, That jaywalking can get charged. And so with people attitude, the other thing was born me. 9 more years, 30 more years before the day we emancipate we. The 200th anniversary when they get the chain off the mine, and the other 4 when they been put it when they take the chain off with feet and with foot, we hand and we mouth. The 4 years is when they been putting the chain in with mine.
All right, so suggestion. Yeah, make a point. Suggestion to ASP Brown.
Pay some attention to people's attitude because the law is important, but you cannot police people's attitude.
All right then. Okay.
Wrong with the attitude. One the thing is, every time you see the bus station down, now you would organize, police did it. Anytime you see the crowded and things, no police. We big people have to allow police to do them that Trinidad is the most. And there's a criminal place and the bus system down the well organized.
But you don't know about that. Hold on. You don't know about that. But you're not making a suggestion, man. I thought you were making a suggestion.
The suggestion I want to make, not much comment on the problem, but
no, make your suggestion. We've been discussing the problem all day.
Solution now. The minibus association supposed to be organized and not just when money.
All right then. Thanks for calling. Money. All right.
You hear about them.
All right.
That's the most important thing. The minibus association organized.
Right.
To have discussion with people
discussion in the school children and to use the road. Every day to be in the school, come right out in the society. Okay, my brother.
Thanks for calling. Yes. SP Brown, final comments. You just got to run out of time, and we have gone way beyond the time. Just hold 1 minute. Let me just see who is this. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program.
Good afternoon to all and the program.
Yes, you have to be quick. You have to be quick.
Yeah, I'm trying to be. A caller earlier spoke about working in collaboration with the Ministry of Transport and Work and the police. I also want to put in another entity, which is the solid waste unit. There are too many derelict vehicles parked on the side of the public road. And something needs to be done about that. That's my point. Thank you.
Thank you very much for calling and for that suggestion. Yes, we want to respond to that quickly?
Well, the police is working weekday, day in, day out with the solid waste management units. Is at the first instance they go out and they tag the vehicles, and after the time span has elapsed, they will go back and they will remove the derelict vehicles and take them to the site. So
can the owners or the persons who are responsible for alighting the vehicles there, can they be charged?
Well, what we normally do, the police normally go out and they will serve notices of removal.
Okay.
And they will give specific times. And if during that time the vehicle is not removed, they will bring charges against the owners of the vehicle.
Okay. All right. So we have had a long one for you. Well, you're accustomed to long sessions. Yes, to be wrong, but this has been long. And so, what's your final?
My final appeal is that we need the cooperation of the general public. Mm-hmm. I know that law enforcement is trying, and we have always seek to add the contribution of the cooperative society in order for us to be effective while carrying out our duties. And the crisis continues. I know the government is trying to put structures and so on in place in order for us to be effective. And we as enforcers of the law, we have to work with what we have and do what we do best in terms of making sure that all the persons who occupy or use our roads are safe while doing so. We have just concluded our Road Safety Week, which I believe a lot of people slight. A lot of citizens and motorists slight the importance of road safety. The World Health Organization published a 21.7 million persons every year either got injured or lose their life due to a road accident, and that is too much. So I am appealing to the general public: be responsible while driving. You have to drive for yourself and other persons. The time has come for us to be kinder, can't be more considerate. You're driving along the main road and you see a person's trying to exit from a junction. Allow them to exit the junction. And as someone is trying to overtake you on the highway, do not speed up when you see that. If you're driving at a particular speed that the other persons feel to themselves that they cannot, they don't want to go at, do not speed up to avoid them overtaking you, or rob them until they reach in the corner to create an accident and so on and so forth. We have to drive with a little of common sense and competence that we know what we're doing. And I want to urge the general public to be more civilized and be their brother's keeper. Be more careful, cautious, and assist persons where possible while using our roads.
Mm-hmm. Bijan, Joel, any concluding?
No,
Yeah, just to conclude, thank you very much for being on radio. If you haven't done so, I would suggest that you can hold dialogue with owners of the radio stations to see if they'll be willing to put out public service announcements on a consistent basis about road safety and traffic-related matters. And also, as someone would have suggested that in addition to using Facebook, whether or not Instagram and YouTube and so on, because I'm told that the younger persons they're not too much into Facebook these days, and they go to IG and other things.
Yeah, Cecil, I want to thank ASP Brown very much for his contribution to our program this morning. And from my vantage point, things could be worse. Let me tell you why. He said you have 24 designated traffic officers to a driving class of about 35,000. That works out to be one officer for 1,460 persons. I listen to traffic
vehicles.
Vehicles, yes. We listen to traffic talk every day, both on 705 and on WEFM. And given the scenario that we have, I hear between 2 and 3 accidents on average per day. And with that few police officers to drivers of vehicles, that is quite small. And something right must be happening to keep it this low. That's the point I want to make.
Mm-hmm. All right, well said. In terms of concluding remarks, I just want to, through you, ASP Brown, give thanks to the Commissioner for allowing you to be with us today. And thank you very much for well-presented ideas. And we hope that sometime in the future when we need you, we can call on you again. Thank you very much and all the best. And on behalf of Pijan, Joel and Kieran, my name is Cecil. Good afternoon.